All right, now now it says I only have one viewer. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea, but we're gonna get going because this is a long. This is gonna be a long show. Okay. Well, I'm gonna drink water and spill it on myself. Super cool. Off to a good start already. Yeah, Light in the Dark is on. Okay, now I got 3 viewers. I don't know what's going on. This thing's all over the map. Let me clean myself up a little bit. All right, so let's get going. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of... Anyway, I just wanted to start with a few stories that I've been watching behind the curtain. And ones that flew under the radar for the most part. So, do you remember LaMonica McCulver, whatever her name is? She was the Democrat rep from New Jersey that assaulted ICE officers while attempting to illegally enter an ICE facility during a little mini riot they had going on there. Well, this is something that happened last month that I have not heard very much about because I don't think that the Democrats want to talk about it. Check this out. A U.S. District Judge, Jamal Semper, says DOJ can prosecute assault case against Representative McCulver. So she's the one that pretty much body checked an ICE officer and tried to manhandle them. So she can now be prosecuted. I don't know why that was in question. When you break the law, it shouldn't matter if you're in Congress or not. You broke the law, right? Wait, I'm tired of hearing the line, nobody's above the law, when it comes to Trump or Trump supporters. But then when it comes to people in Congress, or especially Democrats, that doesn't seem to be the case. So absolutely ridiculous. I just got another. Oh, yep. Okay. I just thought I'd bring that to your attention because I haven't heard much about that. That was from last month. Matter of fact, November 13th, that long ago. And I've been keeping an eye out there and I haven't heard very much about it. So what I did was I went ahead and I got this timeline from Grok. And so far as Grok knows, and as far as I could tell, this is just sitting in limbo. And that's the same link, because why would it paste? There we go. So this is the timeline that we have from Grok. We all know what the story is. I just explained it. And then the ruling, there's no legislative immunity, the judge said. They tried to say that she has legislative immunity because she was arrested while trying to go into an ICE facility without permission. But that kind of fell flat when she assaulted officers or ICE officers there. So what happened is you got all this. This is the short version here. Key timeline, May 9th, incident at Delaney Hall. Baraka arrested and her. Then Baraka was another person there, not the guy from Mortal Kombat, FYI. June 2025, McCulver indicted on 3 counts, pleads not guilty. So she has been indicted. Then October 21st, 2025, oral arguments on dismissal motions under those, the precedent that they were trying to set there where, you're in Congress, so you're allowed to just punch people. November 13th of 2025 is Semper's ruling that denies the dismissal and the trial is delayed. November 20th, 2025, status conference held. December 1st, 2025, Third Circuit hears Haba appointment challenge, where they're trying to now, like they did, we'll get to that a little bit later, but where they're trying to argue that she's been wrongfully appointed. The president shouldn't be able to appoint people to things through the DOJ. Yeah. And then December 3rd, 2025, McCulver publicly reaffirms oversight committee amid House hearing clash commitment. So she's on the oversight committee, and I don't think she should be on anything, and I don't even think she should be in Congress at this point. And then December 6, 2025, no new filings, case ongoing. So we'll see what happens there, guys. She is facing charges, though. The judge was like, no, you don't have any kind of immunity to be able to assault people. It's absolutely ridiculous that you'd even try to argue that. Like, it doesn't matter if you're in Congress or a cop or any of this. You should be held accountable if you're doing things the wrong way and doing illegal things. That's just the way it is. Not prosecuting these types of things is how you get a corrupt Congress and how you get corrupt cops and so on. As far as the economy goes, we've got some good news on that end. This is from the Financial Times. Wall Street banks expect U.S. stocks to post another year of double-digit gains in 2026, defying recent investor jitters over big tech companies' huge spending plans and potential bubble in the artificial intelligence sector. Now, you can see here where everything, Bank of America is supposed to, it's not going to be doing as great because they're pretty shady and everybody knows it at this point. Barclays, JP Morgan is next, and then UBS, and then Morgan Stanley and Deutsche Bank right there. And that's expected to be way up here for 2027, by 2027. You can see 2025, not too long after Trump took office, because when you have somebody that's making sound policy decisions for the country, it just tends to end up that way. Now, let me get set up here again. There we go. So that's actually some really good news. Now, this is from the Treasury Department. I thought this was really interesting on the economy here. Let me show you this. I mean, things are looking up for everyone here, I think. You may not see the effects just yet. You're starting to see prices come down. U.S. Treasuries are having their best year since 2020, and the investors who had confidence and faith in President Trump's economic policies have been richly rewarded. Never bet against POTUS or America, they say. This is the bond market return under Trump the first time, and then here it is under, Biden, as they call him, and then back up under Trump again. So U.S. bond market is doing amazing. That's a big deal, especially if you buy stocks or, bonds, really, which I actually wouldn't mind doing. It's a weird process to buy them, though, so I don't know. I haven't really dug too deep into that. And then we've got this that just came out from Harmeet Dillon in regards to voting rules. Now, I told you they're probably going to start working on the voting issue, I said, because if they don't, there's going to be big problems next year, like when it comes to election time. And I said, I bet you by mid-year, late year, they're going to start really focusing in on the voting issues that we have in this country, because they know that there was fraud at the lower down races in 2024, and they sure as hell know what happened in 2020. And I think even in 2022 personally, but that's just me. But here you go. Under AG Pam Bondi, civil rights has been hard at work delivering results for the United States of America. She lists those results there, but I'll put her on so you can hear her.
It's their problem.
Let me rewind this.
Hi, I'm Harmeet Dillon, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, and I'm here to share an important update about one of my many important duties here at the DOJ, which is enforcing our federal election laws. Here's some facts and figures for you. In the last 8 months, the DOJ has reached out to all 50 states, asking them to share their voter rolls with us so that we can help them comply with the Help America Vote Act, which requires states to maintain clean voter rolls. 4 states complied voluntarily. We sued North Carolina early on, and they are checking the voter records of 100,000 voters who were improperly enrolled on their voter rolls, and they're going to fix their problem voluntarily.
100,000 voters. How many races are won by about that much? Or half that even? I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's insane that this has been going on for so long. And this has been going on probably longer than most of us have been alive. I'm not going to lie. There's been, we'll get it. We can maybe one day do a whole show on all that nonsense.
We have an agreement in place almost with another dozen states. And I expect very soon we'll be looking at their voter data and comparing it with our records and helping them clean up those voter rolls. Now we have 15 lawsuits pending against 14 states. That's right. California got sued twice, and we are in litigation with them. They're refusing to provide their records, even though many of these states voluntarily provide their voter rolls to nonprofit groups like ERIC and even other groups. And so We are going to make sure that we get to the bottom of those. And then we're going to get to the rest of the states. So we're engaged with nearly 30 states. Here's what we found so far. We've checked 47.5 million voter records. We've found 260,000 plus dead people enrolled in the state's voter rolls, which is pretty concerning. They're going to be removed with the help of the DOJ. And finally, that there are several thousand non-citizens who are enrolled to vote in federal elections. This is very concerning. And the DOJ is partnering with local law enforcement where appropriate to prosecute people who have unlawfully voted in our elections. Even one person voting who shouldn't have voted is one too many, because every citizen is entitled to one person, one vote assumption that their vote is being counted equally and only with other American citizens.
Now, you remember they tried to, I don't know if they still are doing that, but they tried to prevent the Trump administration. They're supposed to share voting records, voting rolls or whatever to the federal government, especially because of federal elections, so that they can be kind of have oversight over them and make sure that what's going on at our elections are proper. It's all proper and above board. But a lot of them resisted at first. I don't know if they were still resisting, and maybe she's only got the data from red states like we've been seeing with Snap, which we'll get into in a little bit here. But I mean, imagine that, like the same states, generally blue states, they're handing illegals basically their own version of a US ID or a driver's license. And what do they tell you? Well, you need a driver's license to vote. That stuff's racist. You can't make people have a driver's license or ID to vote. That's voter suppression. How will minorities be able to vote? As if to say that minorities don't buy liquor, go to clubs and all this. I mean, you've heard the argument before. It's absolutely ridiculous. But now they're giving them to illegals so that they can walk in and say, I would like to cast my vote, senor. You know, I don't know what the hell. I feel like this is going to be a lot bigger, and if they're just getting started on this, perhaps it's going to be a lot bigger, because this is from December 5th, guys. So
Citizens. We will not rest at this DOJ with the leadership of the Attorney
an
General.
1860s beard. Yeah, I look like what's the guy from Red Dead Redemption? Only it's white.
Pam Bondi, until we complete this project and provide confidence to all American voters that the rolls are clean and the elections are free and fair. Thanks so much.
So that's big news, guys. I mean, that's no small deal there at all. That's like a big deal there. And then we've got this going on. Kash Patel, he goes on and talks about what the FBI can actually do now that it's not being abused for political purposes. On 60 Minutes, he says this to the world. I mean, I don't know. Who knows what actually aired on TV, no, on CBS. But, or not 60 Minutes, sorry. On, that was a different one, my bad. This was on Eric Trump's show. That was my fault. Let me get that brought up for you so you can listen to what they're actually able to accomplish on now that the FBI is focusing on actual crimes.
Because I started seeing some of these numbers online, and it's actually incredible. I mean, it's really important for people to understand that you guys are actually making a difference these times, rather than, you know, doing some of the, you know, more woke nonsense the FBI seemed to be partaking in for the 4 years of the Biden administration.
Well, the pipe bomb case is emblematic of what happened during the prior 4 years of the Biden administration. They let it lay.
Not only do I know Red Dead, sorry, my phone was playing, I was checking the audio. Not only do I know Red Dead, I'm currently playing again Red Dead Redemption 2 on my PC, playing that game through again because it's so fun.
Because they prefer to go after senators unlawfully. They prefer to go after President Trump unlawfully. They put all their resources and leadership cadre into those weaponizations.
Hold on, guys. I wanted to make the video bigger now.
Shut that off and jettisoned all those individuals. And what happens is these numbers of arrests. And the reason that there's so many violent offenders in America is because the Biden administration went on defense and sat in silence. And the only places they were on offense was for the weaponization of law enforcement. We have 4 top 10 captures on the FBI's most wanted list this year alone. That equals the number of the entirety of the Biden administration. That means 4 of the worst criminal animals on planet Earth were captured by Donald Trump's FBI in 9 months.
I mean, it's really important for people to understand that you guys are actually making a difference these times, rather than, you know, doing some of the, you know, more woke nonsense the FBI seemed to be partaking in for the 4 years of the Biden administration.
We immediately shut that off and jettisoned all those individuals. And what happens is these numbers of arrest. And the reason that there's so many violent offenders in America is because the Biden administration went on defense and sat in silence. And the only places they were on offense was for the weaponization of law enforcement. We have 4 top 10 captures on the FBI's most wanted list this year alone. That equals the number of the entirety of the Biden administration. That means 4 of the worst criminal animals on planet Earth were captured by Donald Trump's FBI in 9 months. On top of that, we have seized enough fentanyl, 100 to kill 127 million Americans. That's up 23%. We have found, identified, and discovered 6,000 children this year alone. That's up 30%. We have dismantled human trafficking organizations looking to enslave our children. That is up 14%. Nihilistic violent extremist networks like 764, preying and mutilating children and
He was trying to say mutilating. He was trying to say mutilating children. So for those of you that don't know what 764 is, because I know some of you don't know what 764 is, 764 is an online kind of cult-like group. The left tries to say they're like neo-Nazis or whatever, because I think there was literally one out of all these people worldwide that was busted that claimed to be one. But what they'll do is they'll find a child. Many times it'll be a kid that's kind of let's say suicidal or has parents that doesn't care about them very much. Kids like that or whatever, they'll seek them out online. They'll find their target. They'll groom them for a bit. Sometimes they'll get, dirty pictures from these kids. Then they'll use that as leverage for to threaten to send to their family or all their friends at school if they don't do X or Y. Generally, X or Y can go from anything from suicide to self-harm to mutilation of oneself, killing your own pets on camera, all this stuff. They're actually scumbags. This whole group started in Texas. Some autistic kid that was around the age of 14 started it, and now there's adults and teenagers and all kinds of people that are in this worldwide group. And the fact that they even have the guts to talk about the fact that this group exists, because you've never heard that name like you have since this year, and it's been around since like 2012, if not before that. I think even before that, these guys have been going. There's branch offs of it now. It's so big and so on. But yeah, it's absolutely insane. So anyway, let's get back to this. Sorry, I just wanted to let you know who that is. That's a big deal that they're targeting these people,
causing them to commit suicide online and things like animal crushing. Our arrest in that category is up 590%. These numbers are because the mission of this FBI is simply to get after people who are looking to destroy our way of life, harm our children, and destroy our youth. And the fact that President Trump came in and gave me one mandate: get out there and deliver accountability for the American people and make sure our neighborhoods are safe. These are just some of the numbers we're talking about.
Yep. So that's absolutely insane that they're actually doing something about that. I've never heard anybody in government, let alone law enforcement, even mention that particular group. That's crazy, because I've known about them for a few years now. And like I said, when I found out about them, they've been around for a long time. One tried grooming my daughter. She trolled the F out of him. Good. They're a bunch of scum. In other news, Obama, not only did we have this come out, which I'm not going to get really deep into this, but we're finding out that the Affordable Care Act, Romney Care, aka Obamacare, really shady stuff going on with that. They're zeroing in on Obama. Let's just put it that way. From everything from the Russiagate scandal and investigation to now this, the ACA, all the things that we're finding out with that. Look at this. Breaking: the DEA's chief financial director under Obama, Paul Campo, who resigned in 2016 ahead of Trump's administration, had his Virginia home raided and has been charged for agreeing to launder $12 million for the CJNG, a Mexican cartel, while acting in his role at the DEA. So under Obama, this guy was working with the cartel to launder money, which is interesting. Considering that, if you recall, Obama was the same president who accidentally lost guns when they were trying to do a sting operation on the cartel, and the cartel wound up with the guns directly in their hands, and they've been used in plenty of murders since, if you remember all this. Was that the Fast and Furious operation, I think it was called? So this also here, this was underreported on. I've never heard about this until this week. Now everyone's talking about this for some reason, and it happened months ago. For this, we're going back to Harmeet Dillon. Take a look at this. This is absolutely mind-boggling. So the preface to this is that he copied and pasted the president's executive orders that are relevant to those DOJ sections, and I told them these are our priorities. Listen to what these priorities are and listen to what happened.
Well, I sent memos out to the 11 sections telling them what each of their jobs was going to be. The first section was what the federal civil rights laws in question are. Maybe in voting, it's the Voting Rights Act, the Help America Vote Act. In employment, it's Title VII. In education, it's Title IX, it's Title VI, and so forth. And then I said, within those laws, we have prosecutorial priorities. And I copied and pasted the president's executive orders that are relevant to those sections into those areas. And I told them these are our priorities. This simple step caused over 200 lawyers in the Civil Rights Division to tender their resignation.
Now, what those orders are, just so you know, because she doesn't say here, but those orders that he had given her as the directive is that everybody will have the law enforced equally, be treated equally under the law, the way it's supposed to be. Not this crap where, oh, you know, they're an LGBTQ person that raped a child, so they're a protected class. They need to be protected. We're gonna handle this a little bit differently than we would if it was a white straight male or a black straight male, which would be handled different than the white straight. But you see, these lawyers were there to do all these things to kind of coddle people like the minorities and the protected groups and classes and so on. And when she copied and pasted Trump's executive order that, no, we're going to enforce the law the way that the law was intended, everyone's treated the same. This black guy is going to get the same treatment as this white guy, that's going to get this same treatment as this gay guy, period, right? Across the board. If this crime is the same for this guy, it's going to be the same for this guy and this guy and this woman. So when she did that, 200 of these dudes quit, of these lawyers quit. 200. This is from September 3rd, but this happened in the summer, and you barely heard about it. Now everybody's talking about it right now. Like when you go to X right now, there's tons of new posts from this month that are talking about this. I don't know why all of a sudden it just now popped up when this happened in the summer, but here you go. I mean,
I was a little taken aback. I thought they would at least make an effort to try, but okay, if you don't want to do the job, there's the door. That is how it works in the private sector, and that is suddenly how it works in the United States government too.
and that's how it should work in the United States government. I'm sorry, the private sector shouldn't have some kind of different standard than people that are getting paid by the taxpayer. You should be held to just as, if not higher standard, because you're getting paid by the American people, not some guy that owns a business. You know, you're working for the American people. You should be proud that you even got that job to begin with. And a lot of these people were not. And I mean, I see it here. My mail person, I don't know who the new mail person is here, but it's gone downhill. I keep getting the neighbor's mail over and over. They stopped. They used to deliver by 9 a.m. or around 9 or 10 a.m. And now it's like 12, 1 in the afternoon. Like, oh, I just rolled out of bed. I don't know what the hell's going on there, but listen to me. I sound like an old fart. But seriously, it's messed up. So here you've got old Judge Boasberg, who is in some trouble. For those of you who don't know who this creepy Herman Munster looking freak is, he is the judge that just seems to keep getting over and over and over all the Trump cases and anything linked to Trump and everything revolving around Trump. This is the judge that's there. At 2 o'clock in the morning, when he's supposed to be on vacation, they knew to take a certain Trump case to him, and there he was to receive it. Now, if you were to ask AI, they're like, well, yeah, it's supposed to be, randomly chosen, but he's a senior judge in that circuit, so of course he's going to get a lot of these cases. To the point where he just got assigned some high-profile Democrat case, and it made headlines, which just kind of tells you what you need to know. The fact that they sent him one for the Democrats, and then felt the need to broadcast it in the media like they're doing, tells you that they know, just like we know, there's no random nonsense with this, right? If you might have doubted it before, the fact that he got one Democrat that we know of so far, and the media was like, look, he gets Democrats, that tells you everything you need to know, in my opinion. So what happened is Congress wanted to hold this whole thing about, these lawfare judges and activist judges. They basically told him he needs to appear before the court, before the Senate or the House, Senate. This was on December 2nd. It's the 7th. And this says tomorrow's Senate hearing right there. So it was on rogue judges. And he said he's not going to show up. And then Nick Sorter here says, subpoena him, force him to appear, and if he doesn't, arrest him. Enough is enough. Now, I just want to point out that Herman Munster's right. He looks like Herman Munster. I just want to point out that this judge did exactly what Steve Bannon and other Trump officials did that wound up being in jail for doing just this. Will Congress have the guts and the balls to go do this to this guy? I don't think they will. Unfortunately, I don't think they will, because I think that a lot of rhinos and Republicans and so on are just as much a part of the problem as anyone else. They refuse to hold Democrats accountable. Why is LaMonica Culver in office still? For example, tell me why she's still in office. Like, the minute she assaulted that guy, they should have expelled her until further notice. You go through trial. If it turns out that you're not guilty, then you can have your position back. But I'm telling you right now, if that was a Republican that went out there and started punching people at any Democrat thing or anything Joe Biden had going on or whatever, it would have been over for them on the spot. And you know it and I know it. So Emerald Robinson, who's been covering in depth the fraud that occurred in 2020, is being proven right again, along with Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, and a bunch of others like us. She just shared this, and listen closely to what Ron Johnson says here. You've got to listen really closely to what he says, because boy, oh boy, does this tell you everything you need to know. So she says, guess what? Senator Ron Johnson was briefed on 1/4/2021 before the 2020 election steal was certified on J6. Now, I've explained to you why J6 happened, why it was allowed to play out like it did. And most of you know this anyway. A lot of people forget, however, that day was the day they were voting to certify the election. And when J6 happened, they were allowed to disperse just as people were starting to say, no, I think we need to investigate this fraud before we certify this election. That's what the Constitution says we need to do, and that's what we should probably do. And just as that started picking up traction, all these fake rhinos and stuff, all the Democrats who weren't going to do it anyway, they all now had an excuse to reconvene later that night and point at J6 and the false reporting being done by the media claiming that Trump sent them down here, and by saying go peacefully and patriotically and let your voices be heard, and cheer on these brave senators that are about to do the right thing. that incited J6, right? So anyway, that's what happened on J6. And then she goes, so when Senator Ron Johnson says we don't investigate voter fraud, he's admitting that he didn't do it. Well, of course they didn't do it, but listen to what he says.
Anywhere near the amount. I'm listening to there's massive fraud. I'm listening to apparently a former CIA operative talk about how they shave votes, not in Democrat counties. They'll shave a few percent using the machines in Republican counties where people aren't really suspecting it, where the vote total should have been 60%, but it's only 58%. Again, I don't know how they do it exactly, but I do know that we don't even come close to investigate voter fraud or welfare fraud. We don't put anywhere near the amount of effort that we should be putting into this.
Well, Senator, you just broke some huge news there. You're listening to do you have a CIA whistleblower that is saying they're...
And again, is this true? Again, you hear all these things. This is on podcasts, some apparently CIA operative who's, but let's face it, I believe the CIA has doctored elections in other countries. That's probably indisputable.
Yes.
Those same types of operations, do those occur here in America? My guess is they do. Do I have hard evidence? No. But again, we just don't investigate it. The people, we're all harmed by it, but for example, the losing candidate, they don't have the funds. We don't have the time yet to certify.
Trump had the funds. Trump was fighting it by himself while these people in Congress sat on their hands and then acted as though Trump did something wrong on J6. All of these people, almost all of these people, pretended as though J6 was the end of democracy as you know it at the end of the country. Oh my God, they tried to, it was an armed insurrection. There was one gun found on one person. So you're hearing him say right now, oh, they don't have the money to fight after these elections. They want to keep all the money that they got and go live out their life. Whether they win or lose, they're going to keep that money. You know, they want them millions and millions of dollars to go to the beach with and take their family on vacations and buy nice cars and stuff. They don't want to spend that on election fraud. Whereas Donald Trump was using his own funds to hire lawyers and hire people like Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Alina Habba, and all these people to try to help fight the election fraud that happened in 2020. And idiots like this sat on their hands. He's one of them, guys.
By these elections. So election fraud goes largely uninvestigated. We uncover, again, in your earlier segment, 500 phony registrations. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
And the fact that he knows that and just says it so confidently and admits that they don't investigate any of it, why should a candidate need their own money to investigate election fraud? These people have jobs for that as well. That's what they, like I said, were supposed to do on J6, and then they use J6, the J6 distraction as an excuse not to do their jobs that day. We all saw it. Oh, every single one of them, the Republicans, all of them that didn't vote that way, all cited J6 as their, oh, well, after Trump just tried to overthrow the government, blah, blah, blah. Just stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys, the fact that they say it now that it's over because they think it's all out of the clear and nobody's going to do anything about it is absolutely just enraging. And then you've got this, Josh Barnett of Arizona said this on X there. He says, it would be impactful to see you, real Donald Trump, take the initiative to address the nation regarding the revelations shared by Emerald Robinson and Patrick Byrne, another person who was talking about all these election fraud anomalies. This is an opportunity to shed light on the election fraud that has plagued not only the 2020 election, but has also been a persistent issue for decades, affecting elections in over 71 other countries where integrity has been compromised. The public deserves to know the truth about these serious allegations and the broader implications for democracy worldwide. There is nothing more important than this. Nothing, he says. And I agree. And that's a lot of what's going on in Venezuela. We're not there, we're not there just because of drugs. Trump said it himself. He said it himself. There's other reasons. He said it to a reporter. There's other reasons why we're looking at Venezuela. Now, remember, according to Sidney Powell and Emerald Robinson and Patrick Byrne, they tie in pretty heavily with the Smartmatic machines into our elections. Same thing that got Maduro elected is what got Biden elected, basically, is what these people are saying. So the good news is, just like I said was going to happen, we have movement in that area just before 2026, right? And what did I say last week? Or the last show, I said 2026 is going to be a really interesting year. The year of the boomerang is right now. We keep watching everything that they've done kind of boomerang back to them, all the way from the Epstein thing to the Russiagate thing. It's all boomeranging now. And when that boomerang comes back, they have to catch it. And if they don't, they're going to get hit in the face with it. And either way, catching it, getting hit in the face with it, however that plays out, it's not going to be good for them. You know what I'm saying? Like 2026 is going to be pretty lit, guys. But at the same time, you've got rhinos like Rand Paul and so on who join forces with Democrats to do bullshit like this. Take a look at this. Rand Paul, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, and others file legislation to block President Trump from taking military action in Venezuela against narco-terrorists. Ask yourself why they would do that. Ask yourself why they would do that. Now, Rand Paul took to the news and he says, Trump once used to be against foreign wars and blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. I'm against foreign wars. But what I'm not against is protecting our own country. And when we're protecting our own country from narco-terrorists who are killing hundreds of thousands of people with their drugs every year, I think that's the proper use of the military because that's what they're supposed to do. And this is in our own hemisphere, by the way. This is our own hemisphere, not some faraway land where these people in Congress have all these military stocks and bonds and so on who clean up from, non-forever wars, right? This is going to be targeted strikes if we do it. That's what Trump likes. Targeted strikes, in and out, get it done with. And that's the way that it should be. And I mean, I just don't understand what they think they're doing, because if they do this, it's going to go to SCOTUS and they're going to get spanked. They're going to get spanked. The president is the commander in chief. He is the commander of the military, which means he is authorized to make targeted strikes. He's not supposed to be able to go to war, like into a full-on war without congressional approval, although that hasn't been the case for years, like for a very long time. The president just says, we're going to war, and they go to war. So, yeah, now I guess we'll move on to what happened in Tennessee, because that was a big thing last week. The Republican won in Tennessee. Everybody swore that the Democrats were going to win. The socialist Democrat who said she hated the state, well, she lost. Here is her on the state she was running in for the people. This is not fake. This is literally a recording of her.
I've been heavily involved with the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city. I hate the Bachelor.
Dude, this broad, that chick, if that chick came at me with that face in a dark alley, I'd probably shit my pants and run. Creepy.
Bachelorettes. I hate the pedal taverns. I hate country music. I hate all of the things that make Nashville, apparently, an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it. Yeah, I'm that girl at the airport that all these bachelorettes are giddy walking out in their two-toned colored Pantone pink shirts, and they walk out and I'm like, they're like, oh my God, that's so loud. I've been heavily involved with
you. So yeah, she lost, and good riddance. But immediately after, shills on the left and on the right tried to paint the close race as trouble for MAGA and Trump. They claimed that this was a reflection of how badly Trump's doing, because, you know, nobody watches my show except for you guys, so they don't know that it's not going badly. But look at this post from shill Robbie Starbuck. He gained his fame by reporting on the ESG score rating system that I had tried to tell everyone about almost like 2 years prior to him and got crickets for reporting on. But this guy here, look at what he had to say, because this tells you who people actually are versus reality, and I'll get to that in a minute. But here's what he had to say. Big old long. Some will be mad at me for this, but I say it out loud, or out of love for our country. We won the Tennessee special election by less than we should have. If you've been to this area, you know it should have been a blowout. And this isn't a knock on Matt Van Epps. He had low name ID, and I would too, yeah, low name ID to begin with, and did a good job pulling it out. A lesser candidate would have made it a real nail biter. So why was it so close? Many voters are apathetic and have very little enthusiasm on our side. Why? They think our majority in Congress is failing them due to the weak leadership, bad profiles, and inconsistent messaging. Before I go further, I don't say this to punch my own side for fun. I don't do that. I say this because I want us to dominate for many years to come. Major time was wasted this year that should have been spent on in-session solving problems. We need to, I mean, the big beautiful bill solved, like, I don't know, 20 plus problems all at once, but we won't talk about that. There's major other problems. We need to right the ship, for our voters will sink our ship in 2026. Enthusiasm from 2024 is gone. Is it? Is it gone? Where's it gone? I don't know anybody that's running away from Trump that's a legit and not some paid shill from overseas that pretends to be American. The blind trust is gone. They want action. The people in Congress need to realize that they aren't Trump, and he isn't there to carry them on the ballot in 2026. They need to deliver now. And even then, we likely have to run 2026 like a presidential election with Trump going around the country. I see it on the ground. Voters want to know when promises are going to be kept by Congress. They want a Congress that works as much as blah, blah, frickin' blah. I mean, look at this. On and on and on and on. Congress this, Congress that. Now, I will give him this. I will go so far as to give him this. Congress sucks. Congress has always sucked. But this is the narrative, and I'm going to end the show talking about this. But I need you guys to hear this narrative, because what this narrative does, what the narrative from this person is doing right here, is saying, oh, Congress sucks. And what does that imply? that you don't show up and vote for Congress if you're on the right because Congress isn't doing what you want. And how does that play out? How does that play out for everybody when that doesn't happen? The Democrats win. And what happens to Trump then? And what happens to MAGA then? And what happens to everything you want from that end then? What happens? The Democrats win. So that's why these people exist, guys, to put these thoughts into people's heads and make sure that, you know, you don't do what you're supposed to do at the ballot box. I swear the shit makes me so angry, but here we are. Now, here's an actual common sense take on this. This is from somebody named Matt Brainerd on X. Now, listen to this. He says, the media will make a big deal about how much closer the TN7 special was than the presidential as some kind of referendum, but this is fundamentally dumb. Don't fall for it. I'm probably the only person who's going to explain the reality to you, and no media outlet is going to have me on, so you'll have to read it right here, he says. In the 2024 congressional election, a strong, longtime incumbent ran with zero primary, Mark Green, and outspent the Democrat $2.2 million to $1.2 million. And there was no outside money involved on either side. Green won by 21.5%. In the 2024 presidential election in this district, effectively zero money was spent by either presidential campaign, and Republicans were energized in a state they were always expected to win. In 2025 special election, Republicans fought a brutal and very nasty primary, and the eventual winner, Van Apps, walked away with barely 50% of the vote. The Democrat raised a lot of money and had substantial outside investment in turnout in the urban parts of the district. This is evidenced by the largest swing being in the most black Democrat county, Davidson, which Ben won by 56 points. When both D and R and the R campaigns are fully funded and have strong outside support, this district is more competitive than when there is a minimal spending here. But even with the D getting full support, it's still an L for them. So in the general election, this money will instead go to more competitive districts, and Republican money will also go elsewhere. Republicans will be better united as time heals divisions from the primary, and the typical margin of victory will return. One factor here is the Dem money does a better job turning their voters out than Republican money does turning our voters out. And that's a discussion for another day. But he shows how all these basically the entire district went to Van Apps except for the city. And you've got fake MAGA influencers who like to do the mind games with people in MAGA. You've got the right-wing shills who could take their money from conservative. I think you've got the people on the left all saying, oh, that was too tight. That's a referendum on Trump. It's not. And he just laid it out perfectly. So don't fall for these psyops, guys. Like, I don't know anybody that's like, oh, Trump sucks. I can't believe it. I mean, like, seriously, I just, meanwhile, you have idiots out here like this trying to manipulate people into not voting, like I mentioned a minute ago. Here it is right here. Take a look at this. This is all intentional. I'm not even trying to sugarcoat this. These people are doing this intentional. If the Republicans want us to vote for them, that's the important line right there. They need to give us some indication that they'll do something other than sit on their hands for 2 years, except when it's time to fundraise and pass an omnibus spending bill. So he's attacking the OBBB, the one that's giving you no tax on tips that everybody's going to see happen in January, and the one that says no tax on overtime that everybody's going to see the benefits of January. It did so much, and it's spending on ICE, by the way. That's the big omnibus spending bill. A whole shit ton of money, about a small country's worth of funds went to ICE, and we're seeing the benefits of that. Do you see these people? Do you see how they operate? This is not a MAGA Republican. This is not even anybody that I would trust. In fact, I don't even know who this is. No idea. End the filibuster and pass legislation that will make it impossible for the Democrats to win power ever again. The future of America depends on it. Now that I can agree with, but I don't think that the weak-kneed Republicans are going to do that, like this guy, like Ted Cruz here, who is definitely a weak-kneed. This guy takes more money from everybody who wants to hate on certain people for Israel or whatever. This guy took millions from Israel. Go look on Open Secrets. I showed you guys. So yeah, I mean, that's just off topic, but I'm just saying, that guy is not, trustworthy in my opinion. Ted Cruz is a snake. Anyway, be careful who you follow, because people like that are out there trying to put these thoughts in your head. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on X, they're on YouTube. So just be careful, man. I can't say it enough to you guys. So one of the most crucial cases to America's existence is literally about to take place next year. The Supreme Court took up the case for, right here, let me bring it up. Took up the case for, there you go. Our conservative justices better have security that equals Trump for the next few months, because communists will kill them to keep foreigners here. The foreigners are central to their part of their revolution. Now, that's a fact coming from Jesse Kelly. They will kill to protect it. So the Supreme Court will take up the case of President Trump's efforts to end birthright citizenship for illegal aliens. Now, guys, we did almost an entire show on this. How long ago? It was a while ago. It was towards the beginning of the year when this all went down. But I showed you the old school, it's still online, the back and forth between Congress when they inserted birthright citizenship into, I think it's the 14th Amendment. It was meant for slaves. And I showed you, if you recall, if you think back, I showed you them. I mean, it wasn't pretty language. They sounded kind of racist by today's standards. When they were discussing this, like they would say things like, "Oh, a mongrel from another country could come and bear children, and then that child could become a citizen if we don't phrase this properly. We need to change this. We need to change that." But at the end of the day, that was their concern, was that the way that they phrase it could make it so that this, what we see now, could happen. And I honestly think that what we're going to end up seeing is, I think what they'll do is they'll try to be fair, right? As long as one of the parents is a U.S. citizen, you'll see more than likely a child be considered a U.S. citizen, because say the father's a U.S. citizen and the mother's here on a visa, or the mother's here on like a visitor, what do they call that? Visitor's pass, whatever, or something like that, right? Or, the dad goes out to the bar and picks up an illegal alien, not knowing she's an illegal alien. They have a child, they fall in love, whatever. If the one of the parents is a legal person in this country, then that child, I think that's the route they're going to go, long story short. But anyway, I showed you that. I showed you that was their exact concern, was that it would be abused right now, to the point that they worded it the way that they did. And yet, they still found a way to twist the wording to their benefit. And I think these judges are going to reverse that, like I just said. And I think Wong T. Ark, which was ruled on years ago, I think that I read that one to you as well. It was worded all weird, but you get the gist. I think that that's going to be shot down and reversed, just like we just saw Roe v. Wade happen in the Supreme Court. It went back to the state's hands. Now, obviously, this can't go back to the state's hands because citizenship is a federal thing, because you got the Social Security and all that. But anyway, another big story that I have not seen many people talking about would be this. Let me bring it up here. Let's hope that it shows up okay on this. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So the media is avoiding this like the plague. I'm not even going to lie, because, the American people find out about this, they're going to be like, whoa, that's amazing that he did that, and we can't let that happen. Michael and Susan Dow commit $6.2 billion for investments accounts for kids. Now, if you don't know, the investment accounts for kids, under a plan unveiled Tuesday, the money from their charitable funds would help to seed Trump accounts, ushered into law in July. See, but nobody's doing anything, right? The Congress didn't do this, right? The omnibus spending bill or something. So that was one of the things that was passed, was that people from here on out, what's going to happen is if you're born, if your child is born, you can now apply to get one of these savings account for your children. And what's going to happen is, I can't remember the gift would put $250 into each eligible child's account. which is meant to grow over time through investments in low-cost stock funds that track market indexes. The idea is to give millions of children a head start on saving for the future, Michael Dell told NPR. So these two, I mean, she's kind of insane looking, but his eyes are really close together. It doesn't matter how they look, guys. They're giving a shit ton of money to help with this account thing, and this is going to help jumpstart a bunch of kids' lives, guys. And this is coming from Trump. This was Trump's idea. They're Trump accounts. Joanna says they need to change the laws to where if a child is adopted abroad and the adoption falls through or the parents pass, the kid keeps their citizenship. Yeah, that would be good too. I mean, the thing with birthright citizenship is that it doesn't have anything to do with adoption. This what they've done with it is they've basically said, okay, there's these illegals here for whatever reason. They could be here legally, but on a work visa, let's say. They could be on vacation here on a travel visa. They can just be here illegally in general, without any visas, without any green card, without anything. But as long as they have a kid here, all three of those categories, that kid is an American citizen. That's how they've interpreted it. It doesn't even have anything to do with adoption. But that would be a good idea. I mean, yeah, because if you get adopted and a parent dies, then you should go to the next person in the family, right? I would assume, just like a normal kid would, hopefully. But yeah, so back to the Trump accounts. It's a really big deal, you guys. Like, if you need to tell as many people about these Trump accounts as you can, especially people that are expecting kids, because they need to apply for one. This is a good way. And then I think grandparents and parents and anybody else that wants to put money into it, up until that kid's 18, they've already got a start of $250. Now, what they're doing is they're encouraging all these businesses, all these business heads and stuff, the big companies, to pump money into this thing so that $250 could go up higher eventually. It could go up higher than that eventually for these kids. It could go way higher if any more businesses put money into it. And these two actually started dumping money into it. So hopefully that sparks what we need to get this thing off the ground. Right now, $250 for a newborn kid that goes into a savings that can go up, especially under Trump. That's going to be amazing, right? I mean, that's a good start. And the parents can keep putting money in and it still accrues interest and all that. I mean, guys, you got to tell everybody. If you know somebody that's pregnant, say, hey, don't forget about those. If they're lefties, don't tell them. But if just make sure you tell them that those accounts exist, you know. So moving on to Snap, which apparently is going to remain in the spotlight for now. Oh, look at how these Democrats are trying to spin some things here. This is actually hilarious. So if you don't know, we can take that off there now. Give me a sec here. The Democrat states are not allowing the welfare rolls to be seen by the federal government. Now, mind you, legally, these blue states, red states, all these states are expected to be able to, like, okay, I'm the federal government. I want to see how your welfare rolls look because I need to ensure that there's not fraud, illegals, and other such things going on. There are states that are saying no, and they're all blue states. The red states have turned them over eons ago. So this is how the Democrats are framing this. They got the memo. This is where we are now, says Adam Schiff. Families are starving in the wealthiest nation in the world. Meanwhile, the president is intentionally trying to cut off food for hungry people who live in states that did not vote for him. It's not just immoral, it's un-American. Agriculture Department threatens to withhold food stamps from Democrat states is how this dishonest headline that was printed for so that people like Adam Schiff could say this, you know. You've got him saying it, and then we'll get into Keith Ellison in a minute. This is Keith Ellison saying the same thing. Look, they got their memo. Just like, once again, Donald Trump's administration is trying to take food from hungry families to punish their political rivals. And there's a stupid statement. So the reason that that's happening is because they're not complying with federal law that says you need to turn over your rolls so that we can go through them, pour through them, and make sure that everybody on here is, you know, in dire need of, that's what it's for, by the way. It's for people who can't work. It's for people who are in a hard time right now. It's for people who are generally older and can't work, retired, maybe don't get enough from Social Security. It's for people who have mental or physical issues. And it's a temporary relief for people who have been abruptly lost their jobs or so on. And then it was only meant as a stepping tool till you find another job, not your entire family for generations lives off of it. So this is from C3. The 22 states refusing to send SNAP data. Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Washington, Wisconsin. Wonder why? And we know why. There's fraud. I mean, they found fraud in the red states, right? So if it's happening in the red states, I assure you it's happening in the blue states, even worse. So, there's a reason they don't want to share it. You know that, I know that. But if you recall, I said over and over since the government closed down, I said when SNAP turned off, I think that they sent Doge in to do some work and check everything while everything was at a standstill. Well, some numbers have come out that I haven't covered on that yet. Take a look at this. This is as far as SNAP goes. Right here, listen to this. This is
on day one when I was sworn in.
This is what's her name? I can't think of her name, guys. Anyway, Brooke Rollins. This is what it's on the damn screen right there in big bold letters. This is what she's found so far.
On day one when I was sworn in, which was earlier this year in February, the very first thing I did was send letters to every single state in America and said, never before has the federal government asked for the data, but it is a new day. President Trump is the president. We know there's a lot of fraud. We need to help partner with you all to figure out how to make sure that this money and these benefits go to those who truly need it and not rife with fraud and corruption. 29 states, mostly the red states, responded with their data sets February, March, April. So the numbers that you're talking through, those are numbers that we have been collecting and analyzing since early summer, late spring. The fact that this spotlight shined on SNAP has allowed us to talk about it. But here's the most unbelievable news I have really just over the last few days, that 5,000 dead people, that was just 1 month. The number is closer to 186,000 deceased men and women and children in this country are receiving a check. Now, that is what we're really going to start clamping down on. 500,000 are getting 2. But here's the really stunning thing. This is just data from those 29 mostly red states. Can you imagine when we get our hands on the blue state data, what we're going to find? It's going to give us a platform and a trajectory to fundamentally rebuild this program, have everyone reapply for their benefit, make sure that everyone that's taking a taxpayer-funded benefit through SNAP or food stamps, that they literally are vulnerable and they can't survive without it. And that's the next step here.
You heard what she said, that they literally are vulnerable and so on. But 500,000 people getting SNAP twice under the same name. Under the same name. How does that happen? And here she is saying it on Laura Ingraham. These are old, guys. These are from the beginning of November, by the way, when the shutdown was still happening.
And 20 plus others did not, and we're suing. We're in a litigation right now. But of the 29 that complied, what we have found is staggering. 500,000 people getting benefits 2 times under the same name. 5,000 dead people. 80% of the able-bodied Americans, meaning they can work, they don't have small children at home, they're not taking care of an elderly parent, they can work and they choose not to work, of course, because they're getting significant benefits from the taxpayer. So this light, Laura, that has now been shined on what is perhaps one of the most corrupt, dysfunctional programs in American history, that we are working now. Very big announcements coming next week on this. We are cracking down. We now have a plan to fix it, and we're really, really excited about doing that for the American people.
So this has been going on for many years. I mean, I think I covered this on the radio.
In 20.
I mean, I wanted to play that for you again, just so that you could hear it again. Like, that's 500,000 people getting money twice. So if they're already getting, if any of those people are already getting $1,000, like we've seen some of these people get, now they're getting $2,000, and you're paying for that. And who knows how long this is going on. But if they found that much in just the, I think she said, was it 29 blue states? Imagine what they're going to find in the red states. Imagine what they're going to find in the 22 blue states. It's going to be insane. It's going to be insane, and that's why they don't want to turn them over, because they know that these shady ass people and these illegals that are on it, this is how they buy their votes. So, moving on, for like 10 minutes on X, the influencer paid shill crowd, they were out there crying about housing affordability because Trump kicked around the idea of a 50-year mortgage for them. A mortgage that one could actually pay off in much less than 50 years if they handled it correctly, but they were paid to melt, so that's what they did. One of the biggest shills to cry about this was content thief Benny Johnson, who was like railing on about it on a few shows, about how young people can't afford housing. So first we got Scott Turner, he's the HUD secretary, stated facts as to why home prices have been rising so high. Take a listen to this. This is something that people will dance around, even on the right, because it doesn't suit their narrative. Like, they really think there's some nefarious reason that young people can't afford to buy houses. But take a look at what he had to say here. This is him on Benny Johnson, laying out some statistics.
How much
Why didn't it come
would the problems of affordability in the housing market be solved if we were to deport all of the 20 million or so criminal aliens that are currently illegally in our nation?
Well, I think it would have an immediate impact if we deport all of the illegal aliens in our country. When you have, as you said, millions of illegal aliens coming across our border, from a housing standpoint, it has stifled the housing supply and caused affordability to skyrocket. Hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens living in government-funded, HUD-funded homes. I'll give you a stat. 59% of illegal alien families use one or more welfare programs, costing us about $42 billion a year. Over half of the illegal alien families, almost 60%, use one or more welfare programs, costing the American taxpayer $42 billion a year. And so affordability is out of hand. Housing supply is stifled because of this. But if you deport them, now you open up homes for the American people, and that's who we're supposed to serve, the American people and the American people only.
So wait a second. So why do any HUD resources go to criminal aliens?
Well, during the Biden administration, they turned a blind eye. Here at HUD, since we came in, Benny, since we took over HUD this January, we've done three things. One, we signed a data sharing agreement with the Department of Homeland Security and Secretary Nome to make sure that those that were living in HUD-funded housing were American citizens. Number two, we stopped FHA-backed mortgages from going to illegal aliens. During the Biden administration, they ignored it. They turned a blind eye to it, but we are no longer turning a blind eye to that. Illegal aliens can no longer get FHA-backed mortgages, which we talked about before, how they have served over 500,000 first-time home buyers just since this past January. Is for the American people. And the third thing we've done is that we're mandating all public housing authorities to give us a comprehensive account and report of every person living in a Section 8 or HUD-funded house in every public housing authority in America.
So that's happening right now. So you are ensuring that if you're going to get Section 8 funding from the U.S. government, then that's not going to go to criminal alien.
Absolutely.
You have certitude that system is in place, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, sir. We're doing it as we speak.
All right.
And that's the way that it should be. You shouldn't be, the third world shouldn't be coming here and able to take homes and low-income homes even from people like that. So then on this same show, Mr. Turner there, he announces some breaking news right there on Benny Johnson's show, who had been crying about the home affordability crisis. So let's take a look at what he announced, because it's super. See, you can see right here, breaking exclusive. HUD Secretary Scott Turner, what did I call him? Did I say Turner? No, I think I said Scott. Anyway, announces the department has provided a pathway to home ownership and affordability for over the 1 million Americans since President Trump took office. So listen to the way that this is framed.
I hear that you have some news to break on our program that is actually a reversal of a trend that we've been seeing, which is home ownership out of reach for American families. The floor is yours, Mr. Secretary.
Well, Benny, thank you so much. It's great to be with you again. And yes, our man Charlie was tremendous when it came to the issues of housing. But yes, today you are announcing here on your show a major milestone for HUD and America. HUD has supported housing affordability and home ownership for over 1 million Americans, and over 500,000 of those are first-time home buyers. So thank you, Benny, for giving us this platform to make this major announcement for the American people.
This is amazing. This is your producer sent us this right before the show. It says HUD supports homeownership for 1 million Americans. Most importantly, 560,000 first-time home buyers. That's critical. Can you explain to me, is this historically high? Is this a tick upward? Is this all in the right direction, Mr. Secretary?
Well, you know, since January, these are the numbers.
Okay, so I want you to look. I don't know what device you're watching it on, but if you look right in here, you see the term FHA and the Government National Mortgage Association, Ginnie Mae. So this big breaking news is that what's happening is that people are partaking in stuff that has existed for many, many years, probably at least 50 years. They are taking part in these programs. Now, okay, credit where credit. I'm making fun of Benny Johnson for pretending that there's that young people, there's just no way for them to achieve the American dream of owning a home. It's always been there. These programs have always been there. It's just that, in school, they're too busy teaching our kids about, what it's like to live as a gay couple in a white, oppressive suburban area, or what it is to have a litter box if you identify as a cat, stupid shit like that, rather than how you can afford to buy a home through the government in the same way that as a new home buyer, right? They don't teach you this stuff in school, and the government sure as hell wasn't before now advertising this stuff. So it sounds like what they've done is they've brought this to the attention of people more. And what kills me is that this flew right over the top of all these people's heads, right? Like, just gone over the tops of their heads, like, oh no, young people still can't buy a home. It's like, even in the comments for that right there, there's somebody in that comment last I saw section saying, oh, them doing this is why homes are so expensive right now. Dude, it's been around for 50 years, like at least maybe 40. I don't know. It's been around for a very long time. HUD and not HUD, Ginnie Mae and all that has been around for a very, very long time. So what I decided to do was this. I said, so when did home prices start to rise significantly to Grok, right? Post-World War II boom is what he goes through. And I just want to show you, he makes this chart. Grok makes this chart, right? So you can see right here. Come on, stupid clicker. 1953 to 1960. Then in the 1970s, there's like a jump right here, right? You see that? Right around 1970, it's just a major jump. And it just keeps going up, 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 up. So that's the house median house price, right? It just keeps, it's been going up since the 70s, slightly since the 60s, but you see the little bit of increase there. It goes from 11.9 to 23.1, and then it just jumps all the way up to 412.3. So I was like, interesting, because we're told that, a lot of the reason that this is happening is because of boomers and so on and so forth, and they were able to do this, that, and the other, and we can't do that now, and they sold us out, and blah, 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 and poor us, and any excuse in the book other than the fact that you don't know that there's programs that exist that can help you, and so on and so forth. And so what I did was I typed in this. I asked Grok to combine visa holders, refugees, and illegal migration, right? And show me how that's increased from 1950 till now, okay? It gave me this chart at first, right? And I was like, yeah, that's stupid. I'm going to be doing this for a podcast. But it gave me this chart too. Like, I was like, okay, cool. But do you notice the trend? I'm just saying, So then I said, can you make me some actual charts? So 1950 to 1960, you can see there's like pretty much 0 to 0.6 to 1.9 in 1970 to 5 million in 1990 to 11 million in 2000. Do you see the pattern? Do you see the pattern? Watch. Let's keep that one open. No, hold on. I got an idea. Let's do this. Let me just go back and I'll show you. I'll save this. Save image. Desktop. Save. What we'll do is we'll put these side by side. Just for, just in case you guys can't keep the two charts in your minds, which I believe might be a thing because it's hard for me to do the same. Okay, here's the first one. This is the house prices going up, right? Now compare that to this. That is pretty much the damn same. There's even the little weird dip right here. Watch. That's the same thing. We've been getting screwed by migration for a very long time. That's the point I'm making to you right now. We've been screwed by both legal and illegal migration for a very long time. Now, I remember when the whole thing with Ohio, was it? And the Haitians was going on. And one of these YouTube reporters went down on the ground. And he was basically asking around to the actual locals about what was happening. And they were pointing out that, like, a lot of places are a lot nicer now there ever since these people came. And what actually wound up being found out is that these landlords for Americans, they weren't dumping money into any of these properties. But the minute that the government decided that they'd start paying to allow these people to come there and paying for their homes and stuff, they started fixing up their properties and making it nicer for these immigrants who then would pack like 5, 10, 15 people into a home. And the people that were living there are like, yeah, the garbage piles up outside. The garbage men can't keep up with it. It stinks. It's summer. Like, it's been pretty crazy. And, also pets are disappearing. But anyway, do you see what I'm talking about? Like, so there was homes for people, but Americans didn't want to live in them because they were shitty and they were not keeping them properly. They weren't putting money into redoing them, making them nice like somebody would want. And then the minute that the government was willing to flood that area with illegals, or refugees rather, under the refugee program that had been loosened, the restrictions had been loosened under Biden, once they were getting them government funds, then it was like, oh, we're fixing this up. We're putting new siding, new porch boards. They were looking nice. And the locals noticed. So I guess that's my point. Immigration's what's been screwing people, along with the fact that people didn't even know these programs existed until Benny Johnson did a segment on it with the HUD secretary. But these programs have been around forever and nobody's telling these people. So then we've got this from also the HUD secretary. This is from Eric Doherty. This is a report on what he had just said on Benny Johnson. Now he's on Fox News saying the same thing. Take a listen.
Administration, there were over 12 million illegal aliens that came over the border, straining our housing supply and making the cost.
12 million, you guys. Detroit has a few 100,000 people in there, right? 12 million. I'm going to let him talk, and I'm going to do a little bit of research really quick.
Known at DHS, as you alluded to make sure that only American citizens are living in HUD-funded housing. We also took away FHA-backed mortgages from illegal aliens during the Biden administration. They turned a blind eye. But we're going to keep the law to make sure that these mortgages, which are backed by the taxpayer, go only to the American people. And lastly, we are mandating that every public housing authority give us a comprehensive account who's living in every unit.
And that's the way it should be. I just wanted you to hear that again, 12 million. So to put things in perspective for you all, this is how many people live in Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles. So they've imported just over 3 Los Angeleses and put them in places, and people are like, why is rent so high? Well, that's why, you guys. It's because all these resources are being taken up by people that shouldn't even be here. You're not allowed to say that, really, because it's just, it's xenophobic or whatever their stupid words are now. So moving on from all the housing drama, Told you this was going to be a long show, guys. I just wanted to get them statistics out there to you so that you can tell people, you know, for sure that it is largely because of migration here that has caused the housing prices to go up. It's not a coincidence that both of those things went up together. So after Trump kicked idiot MTG to the curb where she belongs and called out limp-wristed Thomas Massey for being a major loser, the shills all piped up about how Trump thinks Lindsey Graham is a patriot, but not those two losers. So they claim Trump's destroying his own support by doing this, and then CNN came out with these numbers here. I'm sure you guys have probably seen this by now, but we're going to take a look at this. Just because it flew in the face of what these grifters were saying. Take a listen to Harry Enton here talk about Trump's numbers.
So is the president losing Republicans?
No. Look, this is still Donald Trump's Republican Party, and we can see it here. It's like a rock, to quote Bob Seger. I mean, take a look here. Republicans who approve of Trump. 6 months ago, it was 87%. Now, well, hello, it's the same number. It's 87%. He has not lost any support among Republicans compared to 6 months ago. As I said at the beginning, he's like a rock. He's like a rock. The Republican base is sticking by Donald Trump at this point in time.
It really is interesting to watch his overall approval rating go down, 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 but see this be completely constant here.
It is among independents.
It's almost like his overall approval rating is bullshit. Just saying.
So it's not among Republicans.
Okay, so how does this compare to past presidents in a second term?
Yeah, okay, I think this gives the game away, right? Which is Donald Trump, if you look at 21st century presidents' own party approval at this point in term 2, who leads the pack? It's Donald John Trump. 87% of Republicans approve of Donald John Trump. You go back to 2013, 78% of Democrats supported Barack Obama, and it was 78% of Republicans who supported George W. Bush back in...
Ironically, Bush and Obama are distant cousins.
2005 at this point. So Donald Trump has the biggest highest own party approval of any president who served their entire second term in the 21st century.
You could look at this one of two ways. You could say, obviously, he's doing way better than past presidents. Or you could say, there is still room to settle. If there is a reversion to the mean here, if that does fall further, that could chip into his overall approval rating. Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning from Congress in January. One of the concerns is that Donald Trump backed someone in a primary against her. How has Donald Trump done in his congressional endorsements?
You know, when you go up against Donald Trump, you're going up against a buzzsaw because Donald Trump's endorsement record is, it's hard to find anyone else who beats it. Times Trump endorsees won GOP primaries. In 2020, it was 98%. 2022, it was 95%. In 2024, it was 96%. And I will note, the majority of times that Donald Trump backed a challenger to an incumbent like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that challenger won a majority of the time. The bottom line is this. There was a real reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene decided, you know what, it's not worth the fight, because more times than not, when you go up against Donald Trump in a Republican primary, you lose.
Not just...
So then the same people that were all like, oh, he shouldn't have gone against Marjorie Taylor Greene, people started sharing this like, guys, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Then they started saying, like, well, Trump was killing off his support. So then they go, well, if you're using this CNN as a source, you're already losing. These are the same people who pretend that X is real life, by the way, as though the anti-Trump rhetoric that you see on X that is totally not manufactured by other countries, as we found out, is real life, right? So speaking of... I'm gonna lay this out for you really quick. Speaking of shills and controlled ops, let's run through a few things. This is how this year went. We're in December. I thought it would be kind of important to cover some of these. These are just the top ones that the media ran with that were drilled into your head at that time. So the beginning of the year, eggs. Eggs were going to be the downfall of America, according to the press, as soon as Trump took office, because, you know, he mentioned eggs on the campaign trail. It was their got you moment. Every time they talked to him, like, eggs are still high, eggs are still high. Then the cost of eggs began dropping, despite the fact they really shouldn't have, because we were still recovering from bird flu or whatever, and the Biden administration culling entire flocks of birds. Not to mention, if you recall, there were a lot of fires on these farms randomly throughout the United States as well. So then that died in the water. Now eggs are coming down virtually everywhere. Then next was Signalgate with Pete Hegseth. This was going to be the end of Pete Hegseth. It's been resurrected. We'll get to that in a little bit here. Then it was Taco Trump. Trump always chickens out on tariffs. And meanwhile, we have taken in records of billions of dollars since this retarded ploy from the Democrats, the cringe of Eric Swalwell eating tacos. It was the most cringe thing I've ever seen. I think one of the dumbest things that the Democrat Party ever, well, dumbest for them, hilarious for us, and works out to our benefit because it's all cringe, was them like asking TikTokers for advice on how to be relevant. And now they hold the little microphones. We talked about that last time. Next comes Epstein Midsummer. This was going to end everyone. Bondi, Patel, Bongino, and of course, Trump. But it boomeranged back at Democrats, and immediately they don't even mention it hardly at all now. You're lucky if Harry Sisson brings it up once in a while. He's clueless a lot of times. When you can tell when he's making his own posts and when he's being paid to make a post, because Democrats definitely don't want to be talking about that. But he did mention it like a week ago. So they're probably like, don't, just stop. Didn't you hear? We were implicated. We were talking to Epstein directly during congressional trials. And one of us was asking him for dating advice. We got to drop this. Then there was number 5. That brings us to this fall. The cartel boat double tap. Immediately debunked, and they moved on to, drum roll, Signalgate again. So the double tap of cartel boat thing we'll touch on later. But this blew up in their faces, and they largely have let this go now, though some are still kind of banging on a little bit about it, trying to keep that fake narrative alive. So there were just a handful of big scandals right there that were just going to destroy Trump and his team this year. Both so-called MAGA influencers pushed many of these, helped push similar narratives that leftist media and influencers pushed. It's just a fact. You can go back, review X with search and all that. You can see it. It's both sides doing that. Everybody likes to do the both sides thing. It's when it comes to this, there are shows, controlled ops, paid influencers, paid ops that are taking part on both sides to push certain narratives. And I just wanted to remind you of these. Through all these, you were meant to feel on edge, as though your president is unfit for office, as though some big shift was about to happen in the wrong direction. It didn't. And you need to remember that. So I'm just telling you, don't fall for these things, guys. Just think clearly. Look at what's actually happening versus what the rhetoric surrounding it is, you know? So moving on, last week I touched on Trump saying he wants to end income tax and replace it with tariffs. Liberal Hive Mind reported on this, and he did some math. He missed a few things, but let's take a look here. I thought that we could take a look at this together because I thought this was actually kind of interesting. Let me get it brought up here. There we go. And unmute.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's your meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. Well, you know, they said that it couldn't be done. They said the idea made no sense to begin with. And I gotta tell you, even during the early days, I was skeptical. You know, a lot of these times, President Trump will make this very ambitious statement, and I'll kind of just brush it off as a typical Trumpism. And to a certain extent, I think that certainly applies here. I think Donald Trump's most aggressive ambition here, I think, is likely impossible, likely not going to happen. But, you know, I think that kind of plays into the whole thing. Trump always sets these very extreme ambitions, these goals, and the media will tell you, well, he didn't get to the end and therefore it's a failure. But honestly, if you could get to 10% of where Trump is trying to take you, well, then I'd say that's a heck of a victory. And so I basically chucked up this whole, you know, Trump wanting to eliminate the federal income tax to another one of his exaggerated ambitions. But nowadays, and especially as the president is doubling down, I'm starting to think, you know, maybe it wasn't that crazy of an ambition after all. He may not be able to eliminate income taxes entirely, but his initial claim of eliminating the federal income tax for those making less than $150,000 a year, it actually might not be all that crazy after all. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on as Trump once again seems to be on a path towards potentially achieving the impossible, or what was once deemed impossible. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so in comes President Trump nearly a year after laying out his initial plan, and now that a lot of the early elements have been implemented, well, seems like he's pushing full steam ahead.
Next year is projected to be the largest tax refund season ever, and we're going to be giving back refunds out of the tariffs because we've taken in literally trillions of dollars, and we're going to be giving a nice dividend to the people. In addition to reducing debt, we, as you know, I inherited a lot of debt but it's peanuts compared to the kind of numbers we're talking about. So we're going to be making a dividend to the people. And additionally, we're going to be able to reduce debt. And as time goes by over the next 2, 3, 4 years, those numbers are going to go up. And I believe that at some point in the not too distant future, you won't even have income tax to pay, because the money we're taking in is so great, it's so enormous, that you're not going to have income tax to pay. Whether you get rid of it or just keep it around for fun or have it really low, much lower than it is now, but you won't be paying income tax.
The elimination of income taxes seems pretty wild. I mean, the full-on elimination does. I think any reduction in income taxes, I think for most people would be widely appreciated, but to eliminate them entirely, that's a whole other ballgame, and it sounds unrealistic. But then you stop and do some basic math and you realize, wait a second, I know the media is screaming, impossible, there's no way, he's lying, it makes no sense, but if you pick up a calculator, if you start analyzing, and again, policy focus targeting those making less than $150,000 a year, it's actually not that crazy. Right now, we're talking about tariff revenues, I think coming in around $30 billion a month at the current rate. If you multiply that by 12 for the whole year, you got
$30 billion a month, guys.
roughly $400 billion a year in tariff revenue. And meanwhile, the federal government is pulling in roughly, from what I understand, $2.1 trillion a year from individual income tax revenue. And of course, this is usually where the left wants you to stop doing your analysis. They say $2.1 trillion, $2.1 trillion, $400 billion doesn't even come close, even though it's roughly 20%. But sure, I'll give it to you. $400 billion is not covering the $2.1 trillion tab. But when you then analyze for how much that $2.1 trillion in tax revenue is being paid by those making $150K a year, that's when it starts to get a little bit interesting. I don't know the exact number, I can't find it online, but those making $150K a year are likely not representing a majority of that $2.1 trillion in total tax revenues. As we know, what's the number that the top 10% pays the top 90% in taxes? Something along those lines. But I decided to run an AI query. I can't confirm whether the numbers are absolutely correct, but ChatGPT is telling me that $150K a year sits around the 75th to 90th percentile in terms of income brackets. The top 10%, I think, starts around $170K a year. And when you look at tax shares, people under $150,000 roughly contribute 20% of all federal income taxes. The estimate here seems to suggest that those making $150,000 a year or less are paying roughly 20% of that total $2.1 trillion chunk, which equates to roughly $420 billion. And that's where things start to get a little bit interesting. You got tariff revenue sitting around 20% of total income tax revenues. Then you've got those making less than $150K a year, representing around 20% of those yearly revenues. And so it seems as though we're already kind of in the zone where tariff revenue could actually replace a good portion, if not all, of all income tax contributions of people making under $150K a year. Unless my analysis is completely off. But something tells me while my analysis may not be perfect, it's probably relatively close. And again, it's the whole
I think his analysis on what that is pretty damn close. And I think that the Trump administration, Scott Bessent, and all these people know that that's what they're going to do. They're going to take away taxes for the people making 100K or less, and they're going to implement the tariffs to replace it, which is why you should hope that they're going to win at the SCOTUS level. So we could remove the tax on 20% lower income earners, keep the normal tax for the higher income earners. And what's the left going to say about this logically? They can't argue it, because it would literally be the same, like the competent version of tax the rich that they're constantly banging on about. The rich would still be paying their taxes at the high share that they do pay, that the Democrats don't want people to know about. That might be an issue for them. But at the same time, the people that they claim to care about, which are the people that make $100,000 and less, which they claim they care about, they wouldn't be paying any taxes. So that would destroy them. That would destroy them. When, depending on when and if this goes through, that would destroy the Democrat Party right there. Just a huge chunk of everything they argue. Because they're hoping to pivot to the AOCs. They're hoping to pivot to all these socialist-style candidates like they just tried to do in Tennessee. So if you take away the tax the rich nonsense, they're dead in the water, guys. So there was another attack on Pam Bondi taking place on X mostly. We're just going to go to Grok to break it down really quick. So they're making the claim that Pam Bondi had shut down a whistleblower on the vaccines. The woman was, I think, a nurse or something. She was actually shut down in 2022 by the previous DOJ. So this is basically the abridged version of what they're trying to say on X. Yes, there are recent reports and discussions indicating that U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, through the Department of DOJ, has moved to shut down or dismiss high-profile whistleblower case related to COVID-19 vaccines. This centers on Brooke Jackson, a former regional director at Ventavia Research Group, a contractor for Pfizer's phase 3 clinical trials, who filed a quitom lawsuit alleging fraud, data falsification, and protocol violations in the trials. The DOJ's intervention under Bondi has drawn significant criticism, especially amid the recent FDA admissions of pediatric deaths linked to the mRNA vaccines. Below, I'll break down the key details. And the background: she was fired in 2020, the whistleblower, for reporting issues like unblinding of participants, falsified data, like blind tests. Okay, gotcha. Poor lab practices and unmonitored patient safety, blah, blah, blah. DOJ's recent action, and I should add, the government under Biden declined to intervene in 2022, allowing Jackson to proceed privately. So they said you can go privately, but this isn't going to be this big thing. So DOJ's recent action: in late November 2025, the DOJ, now led by Bondi, filed a statement of interest urging the court to dismiss the case entirely. This move is seen as an attempt to shut it down, overriding a prior non-intervention. Now, I will go through and I'll tell you that they do claim that the reason that this is because she used to work for Pfizer back in the day as a lawyer. Okay, so then I asked Grok, I said, right here, I said, nope, that was me just confirming. And then I asked here, I said, aside from unproven accusations, could there be other reasons they are moving to dismiss this lady's lawsuit? And he says, yes, aside from unsubstantiated claims of corruption or conflicts of interest, because we have to prove this. We can't just say this, right? We've been doing this for far too long on too many things. So several well-established evidence-based reasons under U.S. law and DOJ policy that could explain the Department of Justice's intervention and motion to dismiss Brooke Jackson's False Claims Act via quitom lawsuit against Pfizer, Ventavia Research Group, and Icon PLC. So the first one, the legal basis would be the FCA 31 U.S.C. 3730 allows the government to intervene in a quitom case at any time, even after initially declining, and move to dismiss it upon showing good cause. This was affirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court in Polanski versus Executive Health Resource, Inc., 2023, which held that a government's dismissal power is essentially unfettered if it meets basic procedural requirements. Notice to the relator: courts defer to this authority because quitom suits are brought on behalf of the United States, not purely private actions. So this is done in on the behalf of the United States people. The government bears the ultimate litigation risk and recovery share. So if she didn't have her shit together, which she may not have, guys, I'm just saying, the government would be responsible for the fallout from that. Application here: the DOJ intervened in Jackson's case, initially declined in 2022, citing this precedent. In a November, and honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, as hard as Trump pushed how great, and always has pushed how great that, what was it, light speed or whatever, warp speed was or whatever, they could have totally spun this whole thing around on him and said, oh, they only did this because of Trump, and look, here's a whistleblower. But even in 2022, they were like, no. So I don't know. In a November 2025 appellate hearing before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, DOJ attorney Sarah Smith argued that the government's mere desire to dismiss constituents sufficient good causes without needing exhaustive proof or frivolity. This aligns with FCA intent to prevent whistleblowers from pursuing cases in the government deems counterproductive. So doubts about the case's merits and evidentiary weakness is another reason. The DOJ assessment, the government has reviewed the same clinical trial data, adverse event reports, and FDA submissions referenced in Jackson's complaint and concluded her allegations, e.g. protocol violations at 3 Texas sites affecting 3% of data, lack merit. And 3% of data isn't a lot either, by the way. Specifically, the DOJ maintains that even if minor irregularities occurred at Ventavia sites, they were not material to Pfizer's overall emergency use authorization, EUA, or full approval in 2021. Court alignment. So the U.S. District Judge Michael T. Chunickel's August 2024 dismissal order echoed this, noting the government's differing assessment of the Pfizer vaccine data and finding no evidence that Ventavia's issues impacted FDA decisions. The case remains at the pleading stage, no discovery yet, so the DOJ argues further pursuit is speculative. And number 3, resource conservation and avoidance of burdensome litigation. DOJ policy. Per the DOJ's 2018 Granston memo, updated 2023, prosecutors should seek dismissal in quitam cases that 1, burden government resources disproportionately to potential recovery, 2, involve weak evidence of fraud, or 3, interfere with agency priorities. Jackson's suit alleging fraud in multi-billion-dollar DoD contract could require years of discovery, e.g. subpoenaing vast trial records, costing millions without guaranteed success, especially since the government recovered no damages post-EUA, emergency use authorization. So, specific to this case, the DOJ filing highlights the desire to avoid discovery and litigation obligations, noting the case advance amendments Jackson filed 2 and lack of new compelling evidence since 2021. Dismissing with prejudice prevents repeated pointless attempts to refile similar claims, conserving taxpayer funding for higher priority FCA enforcement, and the DOJ recovered $2.9 billion from quitam suits in fiscal year 2024 alone. And then number 4, alignment with public health and policy, national interest, broader implications. Pursuing the case could undermine ongoing vaccine programs and the public trust in FDA approvals, as per the DOJ. The government views the Pfizer vaccine as a public health success, billions of doses administered, and litigating alleged trial flaws, despite FDA's December 2025 safety updates on rare pediatric risks, might fuel unnecessary skepticism without altering outcomes. And then lastly, hearing testimony at the 2025 appeal, Smith emphasized that the government's decision reflects a weighing of discovery burdens against likelihood of success, prioritizing national health strategy over individual claims. So at the end of the day, what it comes down to is a handful of things. And a lot of it came down to, this is going to cost the government a lot of money to do. And it's literally one person's claim against a whole bunch of people, right? So if anything, it sounds like they might, if they're going to look into this, they're going to do this interagency, and they're probably kind of looking at it like RFK, if he finds stuff, he lets that stuff out. You know what I'm saying? Like, he lets out what he finds. So what would be the point if we're letting stuff out? You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. I guess you can do with that what you will. But that is, I'm bringing it to your attention, that is the current attack that is taking place on Pam Bondi on some parts of X. So beyond that, this just happened. Moving on from that, I know that was a lot of boring talk, guys, but I want to keep you informed. This just happened right here. Breaking live now, former Venezuelan intel chief flips, pens open letter to Trump. Check this out. This is crazy.
Of his role in Venezuela's attack against the United States, and also saying that President Trump's actions on the narco-terrorist state are absolutely justified. The letter was written by a man currently in U.S. custody named Hugo Carvajal. He writes, quote, "The purpose of this organization, known now as the Cartel of the Suns, is to weaponize drugs against the United States. The drugs that reached your cities through new routes were not accidents of corruption, nor just the work of independent traffickers. They were deliberate policies coordinated by the Venezuelan regime against the United States. This plan was suggested by the Cuban regime to Hugo Chavez's, Maduro's predecessor, in the mid-2000s, and has been successfully executed with help from FARC, that's the Colombian entity, ELN, Cuban operatives, and yes, Hezbollah. The regime has provided weapons, passports, and immunity for these terrorist organizations to operate freely from Venezuela against the United States. Carvajal also details in the letter that was printed exclusively in the Dallas Express, a regional paper, that, quote, when the Biden-Harris open border policy became widely known, they seized the opportunity to send these operatives into the United States. They now have obedient, armed personnel on American soil. To finance their operations, they were explicitly instructed to continue kidnapping, extorting, and killing. Every crime they commit on your soil is an act ordered by the regime. Now, as for the claims that Venezuela was behind the stolen election of 2020, Carvajal states that, quote, Smartmatic was born as an electoral tool of the Venezuelan regime, but soon derived into a tool to help keep the regime stay in power forever. Carvajal says he knows this because he placed the head of IT of the National Electoral Council, or CNE, that's the Venezuelan elections entity, into his position.
Okay, now, obviously this is 57 minutes, 58 seconds long, and, you know, we've already been going for an hour and a half. But I wanted you to hear some of that, because it does. Venezuela, Smartmatic, U.S., it all ties together. Another thing that I wanted to, you need to watch this. I'll bring the actual post. This is from Emerald Robinson from December 4th. So just scroll and look for where she's sharing breaking former Maduro intel. This post here. Take a screenshot. I'll leave this up. Take a screenshot. Look for this on Emerald Robinson's wall on X and watch that entire video when you get time. They even, this supposed whistleblower from Venezuela even says there are people working in the actual, as I think he says, like Congress people who are double agents for Venezuela. I'm just saying. Now, one of these YouTubers I watch who breaks things down legally pretty well, and I know it's not law of self-defense, it's some other guy. I'm not a big fan of him. I was going to play him on the show tonight. His video is about 14 minutes long, but I'm not going to give him the airtime because he flops back and forth and says stupid shit a lot. But he tried to imply that, you know, this is a push to try to get us to go to war because he doesn't want us to go to war. Now, you know my stance on this. I think we do need to go to war with Venezuela. I don't think it's going to be a forever war. I think they need to be targeted strikes, take out Maduro, take out the drug cartels underneath of them, and so on. I showed you on the last show that Maduro himself seems to have said some things to Trump about go look back at FBI records, CIA records from under Biden and see what really went on, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot coming out, guys, that people are ignoring while trying to blackpill you. And this movie is getting good, guys. 2026 is going to be lit. There's going to have to be big things, big booms for people to remember. And I think that's what's going to happen right in time for midterms. And it won't be over by then either. So I'm just letting you know. Take a look for this post. Like I said, screenshot this, take a picture with your phone if you're watching it on TV, and look for this post and listen to this video. Absolutely insane stuff that this guy's saying in his letter. So as you may have heard by now, Lindsey Halligan, along with some of other minor technicalities, are what a judge used to dismiss the charges against Letitia James and James Comey. And like I said last show, they're not done with these people yet. Granted, the same grand jury just recently that indicted them just also declined to do it again because the judge meddled like he did. But they still have options, and I'm thinking they're going to employ all options here shortly. Comey, well, the charges brought now were the least of the charges that are going to come in. Let's put it that way. This was just this time-sensitive case that they had against him lying before Congress, 5 years, blah, blah, blah. This ongoing, I've told you guys and showed you guys the law, ongoing criminal conspiracy charge, that's yet to be brought, right? That's still out there just floating around out there. So Take a look at this video here, if it would open for me. Here we go. It's over here. Okay, that's why it was on the... And I just minimized it. Boy, clicking is not working out too good for me today. Here we go. Take a look at this video here, if it'll play.
While there's this weaponization going on under Biden's Justice Department as well, the DOJ today reportedly weighing new criminal charges.
And delete it. I'll put it up in the browser. Which browser will I use? This one.
While there's this weaponization.
Yeah, that works. All right. Okay, so take a look at this video here. This is actually pretty interesting regarding Comey. From Fox News.
While there's this weaponization going on under Biden's Justice Department as well, the DOJ today reportedly weighing new criminal charges against former FBI Director Jim Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James after their indictments were dismissed. A judge determining that the U.S. attorney leading the cases was improperly appointed. That was Lindsay Halligan. Comey's former lawyer is suing the Justice Department now, asking the feds to block the use of any seized material found on his hard drive and his personal accounts. Nicole, how does that happen?
Could you imagine how arrogant you'd have to be to say, oh, you're not allowed to use any of the evidence you find against me on the hard drive? You would never get away with that. You would never get away with that. He thinks he's gonna, though.
That he could actually say, oh, no, my personal information is off limits.
These individuals involved in this Comey debacle, I'm sorry, but they were absolute narcissists, and they think that they are above the law. And you know what? They have been above the law, Maria. Who have you seen be held accountable up until this point? Nobody. And again, I'm not saying that, this is not political retribution. And people are like, oh, the Trump administration is now just going after their enemies and political opponents. No, actually, that's what the Biden administration did. That is not what the Trump administration is doing. What they are doing is that they are trying to restore justice and do equal enforcement of the law. And as an FBI agent who worked under James Comey, he single-handedly destroyed the agency that I loved working for. And I do believe that he needs accountability. I believe those internally at the FBI that are good, solid FBI 1 agents that I talk about in my book, The 2 FBIs, they want accountability, but I think Americans, we want transparency. We want to know that if you do things that are wrong, you will be held accountable. Well, and that's not what we've seen over the last 4 years, especially under the Biden administration.
By the way, that's why we keep seeing it. So we had Russia collusion, no accountability. We had the Hunter Biden laptop, no accountability. Impeachments, indictments against President Trump, no accountability. No wonder they just decided to do Arctic frost and just start, tracking Republicans and supporters of Trump because they can. They'll get away with it. Now, I spoke with Mike Davis, the head of the Article 3 project, and he is adamant that we'll see accountability. Here's what he said, watch.
Anyone who politicizes and weaponizes intel agencies and law enforcement to go after their political enemies for non-crimes has committed a very serious crime, conspiracy against rights under 18 USC Section 241, and this goes all the way to the top of the Obama administration. President Obama, Vice President Biden, Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Jack Smith, Jay Bratt, Andrew Weissman. There are so many dirty actors in this ongoing criminal conspiracy against rights. These people must be held accountable. I know that the new Miami U.S. attorney has opened up a grand jury at Fort Pierce, Florida, that's going to be impaneled in January. And I would tell these lawfare Democrats they better lawyer up.
Do you really believe that Obama is going to get indicted?
Presidents have presidential immunity for their official acts. At a minimum, he could be named as an unindicted co-conspirator.
However, conspiracy is not an official act. I'm not sure why he didn't mention that part. This guy's he's a good dude. Don't get me wrong. You can check him out. His name's Mike Davis. He's on X. Very pro-Trump, very well-versed in the law. But as an official act, you can't. There are things that you can't do also as an official act. You can, you know what I mean? Like, behind the scenes telling people to alter information on the incoming president, for example, like he supposedly did according to the data that has been released. That's not an official act. That's just shady. That's shady behavior, and it's unofficial.
Lindsay Halligan has shown time and time again that she has overwhelming evidence that James Comey lied to Congress about his involvement in Crossfire Hurricane, the biggest scandal in American history. We've seen the evidence. She's produced it in response to James Comey's various motions to try to derail this prosecution. The evidence is overwhelming, but we do have Democrat judges in this courthouse in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., who seem to be going out of their way to protect James Comey and to try to kick this case. James Comey will face accountability, whether it's in the Eastern District of Virginia or the Southern District of Florida.
We'll see, Nicole. What do you think?
He's exactly right. You know, a lot of times you can have all of the evidence in the world, but it really does come down to who the judge is and, frankly, when it goes to trial, who the jury pool is. So we're looking at the Eastern District of Virginia versus the Southern District of Florida. And I was an FBI special agent in the Miami division in the Southern District of Florida. I do believe that those in South Florida are going to have a stronger chance of serving justice on James Comey and others that were involved in this debacle. Again, this is time for the FBI to regain the trust of the American people. And if there's not equal enforcement of the law and there's no transparency, this is the one moment that they really do need to make sure that justice is properly served. Again, this is not political retribution. This is equal enforcement of the law. We need to see this. But again, it does come down to judge and jury pool. We've got a grand jury is going to be impaneled down in Southern District of Florida, in Fort Pierce. I do.
And there you have it. They're going to find another grand jury. Now, as far as Letitia, well, it turns out mortgage fraud might not be the biggest problem for this woman. As I've been saying for a while now, there's going to be more coming with her. She did a lot of shady stuff as the AG of New York. She personally went after Trump. She ran on personally going after Trump. She shopped around for judges and personally tried to ruin Trump's life. That's against the law for an attorney general to do. I mean, she literally is on camera running to do that, run to ruin his life. So this is Trish Regan on something new that has come out that you may not have seen or heard about. Not a big fan of her, but take a look at this.
I know that Letitia James is apparently not going to get indicted in the Eastern Virginia district now. They tried a second indictment, remember, and that news came out late yesterday, actually after yesterday's show. But I got to go back to a story that I started reporting on and was clued into both via the Financial Times, paper out of London, as well as some reporting that the Gateway Pundit had done. And I thought that this was really suspicious. I've done a lot on terror financing in my career in the past, and this struck me because Letitia James, who's supposed to be responsible for the sort of clearinghouse, if you would, of any money that's going through New York. A lot of money goes through New York because don't forget, the oil trade itself, right, is done in dollars. Oil per barrel is priced in dollars. So when you have sanctions in place and you're not allowing Iranian oil and you're not, transacting with Iran or Russia for that matter, well, what happens when everything and all of those transactions are done in dollars? That's when some of these countries start to look for a workaround. And in the case of Iran, it seems that they were looking for a workaround, and guess what? They found one thanks to Letitia James, which has me asking a question that it's sort of similar to what I'm asking with Timmy here, is did she deliberately look away? I mean, Kathy Hochul too, but this comes under Letitia James's jurisdiction as AG of New York. Why was she allowing for nearly $10 billion to be going through New York banks that shouldn't have gone through with, by the way, a bank that had a history of laundering money for Iran? I mean, this is something to see. So let's back up for a second. Here's a story in the Financial Times. Standard Chartered's Iran transactions, the subject of new whistleblower claims. Apparently this bank, which is a British bank, had all this money going through New York. Again, you got to transfer everything into dollars so that they could then send it to Iran. It's nearly $10 billion worth of alleged money laundering. And they had a history, by the way, of money laundering for none other than Iran. And we're told that Letitia James's office was informed of this, and they didn't do anything. So is this a Timmy situation where you just look the other way? We don't really want to know about this? When we had sanctions in place, by the way, that was under the Biden administration. That was her president, right, who put in those sanctions. And yet this money was allowed to go through New York. And despite her and her staff being told about it, like they looked the other way. Does anybody else find that suspicious? I mean, I'm just saying, maybe you forget about the mortgage thing for a minute, because to me, this seems like a bigger deal.
Now, she bangs on about how Pam Bondi messed up by appointing Lindsay Halligan to where she did, and that's why Letitia James and James Comey aren't facing trial anymore, which they will be. Apparently for a number of things. Now, keep in mind, it was Trump who instructed Pam Bondi to appoint Lindsay Halligan. So if it's anybody's fault, it would be Trump's fault, because he's the one that said, yeah, put her in that spot. She's great for it, right? So it's just another example of people just by default blaming Pam Bondi for things, even though in this particular instance, for sure, it was Trump's idea to do this. Now, you can watch the rest of this video. It is 10 minutes, 21 seconds long, from Trish Regan. You can see it right there on the screen. Breaking: Letitia James implicated in alleged $10 billion Iran laundering operation. So that's the gist of the story, guys. She either turned the other cheek or knew damn well that it was there, and may or may not have had her fingers in the pie. We don't know yet. This is new information. So, as many of you know, there has been a development with J6, the J6 pipe bomber. He was finally arrested on Thursday. He planted bombs with timers that didn't work. Then for like 4 years, they used him as a political bludgeon against MAGA. Here's the prime example of that. As you know, the left has painted MAGA as far-right extremists. Here, so take a listen. I just want you to hear what this person had to say back in the day about whoever this bomber might be. Take a look at, why am I not seeing, there it is. Take a look at this interview with this anti-American Muslim.
Jelani, you're a black man, I'm a Muslim. When you consider how black criminals and Muslim terrorists are treated, both by the legal system and by the media, and yet the January 6th pipe bomber who laid explosives in front of the RNC and DNC.
FYI, for the legal system, they've literally been caught changing the race from white to, or from black to white on actual criminals. And thanks to weakened legal policies, Irina Zarutska is dead, and now I'm not even covering that on the show because there's so much still to go through, and we've been going for so long. But there's been a new stabbing on that same transit system from a repeat illegal alien criminal. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear, and as far as Muslims go, didn't we just have a bust here in Michigan where they were going to attack on? Yeah, just stop. You know what I'm saying?
DNC headquarters still walks free. We just learned today that then Vice President-elect Harris was inside the DNC when the bomb was found there. We still don't take domestic terrorism of the far-right white variety seriously in this country, do we?
No, we don't. We've seen this since.
Now, this video, I don't even know when this is from. January 2022, it says up in the top right. So they have no idea who that bomber was still. But it was definitely a far-right MAGA person, even though it happened the day before January 6th.
The Obama administration, where they pointed out that there was this rise of white nationalist terror, and that was promptly squashed and jumped upon by the Republicans in Congress. And so great cries of outrage in response to that. And this has been what we've seen since then. Nowhere near the level of alarm that we've had around the, what was the phrase they used, Islamic terror, that they were trying to make Barack Obama say all the time.
Yeah, it's just so depressing, the double standards. I don't know how many times you can draw attention to it. I, as a Muslim, keep drawing attention to it because it kills me.
Kills me too there, buddy. Actually, Islam kills a lot of people. Anyway, it came out at a press conference from Pam Bondi that information used to track the bomber down, it was all at the FBI this whole time under Biden. They had all this information. The left was quick to claim that he was, MAGA. And then this came out. But they, don't get me wrong, they're still trying to do that. But then this came out right here. The alleged D.C. pipe bomber ran a bail bonds company that worked to free illegal immigrants from ICE facilities. He sued the Trump administration's DHS, hired radical racial ambulance chaser Ben Crump, and lost the lawsuit a week before he planted the bombs. Wild twist. Okay, and then this also came out right here. This is the entire picture that has been painted now of who this guy actually was, just so you're all aware. Right here. This is from Benny Johnson. He was a young black guy, radical anti-Trump activist, sued Trump and ICE DHS, extreme racial justice advocate, works at his family bail bonds company that frees criminal aliens from ICE custody. So this is him. This is the guy. He says the FBI didn't fail to catch him. Leftists protected their own. This is the biggest FBI cover-up scandal in history. And I tend to agree with Benny Johnson for once. I tend to agree with what he's saying right there. This was very intentional. Now, here's the guy who led the investigation, or so-called. This is the guy who led the alleged investigation that took place under Biden. This is what he had to say. Take a listen to this nonsense. This is stupid.
One of the top priorities for the FBI is finding the person who left behind the bombs at the RNC and DNC buildings near the Capitol. Those were found just hours before the attack on the U.S. Capitol. And Stephen D'Antuono, who is the assistant director in charge of the Washington field office, talked about that case.
We have done over 900 interviews. In this investigation alone, there's 39,000 videos that has been hours reviewing just on the pipe bomb investigation we're talking about, and over 400 leads, tips that the public have given to us. We follow it all. That's what we're doing on this investigation because it is a top priority for us.
So we've seen the videos, the hooded sweatshirt, the face mask, the backpack, the Nike shoes. Are you surprised that none of this has yielded the tip that brought this forward?
In prior COVID times, in any neighborhood, I think, in the country, if you saw an individual hooded, masked, glasses, gloves on, it would have been a red flag for any individual walking around that day. In this case, it wasn't, because of the environment that we were living in during COVID times.
Well, one of the things we wonder is why the bombs didn't go off.
The bombs could have gone off. They just did not go off. In this area where the bombs were placed, if they did go off, they could have caused some serious harm or death.
So keep in mind that they tracked down everyone, and literally, they tracked down their grannies as well, who were even remotely close to the Capitol on J6. They used cell phone data, facial recognition, and the public's help, among other tools. But the one guy they couldn't find was the far-left agitator who once sued Trump over immigration policies, who also had ties to Antifa and other leftist paramilitary wings of the Democrat Party. That was the one guy they couldn't find. Locked up thousands of people for literally being near the Capitol and associated with Trump. Okay, and then this is the story that CNN went with the day of the arrest. Take a look at this. This is absolutely CNN right here. I promise you, you won't be shocked. I wish stuff would click on. When I click it, it would help save time.
Look, the deputy director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, who's really has been a big force for trying to solve this case, he said on Fox News last night that they had interviewed the suspect, the young man who'd been arrested on this case, at length over the last 24 hours. And what we've learned is that among the statements...
Now, I want you to look at the bottom of the screen. I want you to, before we play the rest of this video, look at the bottom of the screen. I can't take the unpause thing off. But it says, source, accused DC pipe bomber told FBI he believed the 2020 election was stolen. So keep in mind, when you hear that narrative, this is where it came from. And where did it come from? A source. Another source says this, despite evidence to complete contrary of what the bottom of that screen says right there and what he's about to say.
Made is that he believed the 2020 election was stolen. And so that appears to be the first statement that has been made in this case that might give an indication of a motive of why he may have placed these bombs in those locations. Remember, the two bombs were found at the RNC building, in an alley behind the RNC building, and at the DNC building, both of those just a couple blocks away from the Capitol. And for the last 5 years, Sarah, you know that this has been certainly a fixation of a lot of conspiracies as to whether this was something connected to the riot, because you remember when they found these bombs, the crowd had just begun surging and breaking through some of the cordons at the U.S. Capitol just a few blocks away. So the question was it connected to the riot and to the conspiracy theories that the president had been pushing forward to overturn the election? Well, now we know that this suspect has at least told the investigators in this case that part of what was going on at the time in 2020 was that he believed that the 2020 election was stolen, which is something that President Donald Trump was pushing at.
So again, that was according to a source, not the actual FBI. So here is the two possibilities for that. The media needs to have something to say about this to keep talking about incessantly every hour on the hour, because it was breaking news. If they're locked out of the FBI, then they're going to start claiming sources, right? We've seen this before. However, if they do have a source that is telling them this nonsense, even though we know it's not true, then that would be somebody within the Trump administration either trolling them or a source that is getting paid to tell these people false information that he knows will make it out into the airwaves, or he might be doing it for free even, that he knows will make it out into the airwaves and get out ahead of the truth that's about to come out about this person. So it's one of those things. It's one of those two things. Somebody's intentionally, either for trolling reasons and Trump's aware they're doing it, or for really shady reasons, putting out bum information so that the media reports on it, which I don't think that would be good for trolling reasons, because, of course, people are going to remember the first narrative they hear about this, and this was it, right? Even though it came out, once the FBI themselves actually put out some information, it was complete opposite. He was a leftist. He sued Trump, stuff like that. Or they're making shit up. That's like, it's one of those two things, you guys. So also according to CNN, this is another thing that happened on day of. So take a look at this. This just shows you how these people operate. Well, watch this.
Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with.
Yup. They did it again. The old black white man, they went there. See, and that's what makes me think that their source is probably BS and made up, because if they're willing to claim he's white, that picture, by the way, was not on the screen. The picture of him was not on the screen. That was added by whoever screen grabbed that video and put it up there. So he was just saying that without knowing what color he was, obviously, or intentionally lying. One of the two. But anyway, what they were trying to do, somebody here was trying to flip the script on the story. They know how the truth actually looks for them, and they will succeed with some people in doing so. There's people out there running around, I promise you, right now who thinks he was white and loved Trump because of BS like this. So, you know, at best, they might think he's a black Trump supporter, okay? So look how they did with Kyle Rittenhouse. Just for example, look, there are still people out there that believe he killed innocent black people. He killed only white people, one of which was a known pedophile. But this is how they operate, guys. And to make matters worse, this is now the narrative. Like I said, this is the narrative spreading around on the left. These are some of them. Take a look at this right here. Pardon? Cole's lawyer plans to argue Trump's January 6 class-based pardon shields him. Claiming the pipe bomb incident falls within the broader J6 timeline DOJ created. If so, a major constitutional fight is coming. So this is what they might be trying to do, you guys. They might be trying to see if some crazy left-wing judge will free this crazy left-wing person here. Why is enter not working now? I give up. So this was another. This is CNN again. This is them literally saying this out loud.
I do wonder if he had been actually caught around the time of January 6th and prosecuted, would he have been included in Trump's pardons?
I mean, okay, this is absolutely beyond the pale to me, to be honest, to claim that we don't know any sort of inkling of a motive of this individual, when just a few months prior, there was a lawsuit ruled in the Trump administration's favor against this particular individual for his company seeking to let illegal immigrants out of prison on bail bonds. He purchased the supplies in 2019.
Just to clarify,
See where she cuts her off? What she said was very important. He purchased the supplies for these bombs in 2019. Okay, 2019. This guy wasn't like, oh, Trump lost the election. I need to get these pipe bomb pieces together. He purchased these years in advance and hated Trump. His whole family does.
Clarify, what we're saying is that on that podium there,
yeah, you're suggesting that he's tied to January 6th insurrectionists theoretically, because had he been found at that time.
We are saying that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi did not provide a motive. And so you can speculate all you want, but the authorities who are charging this guy haven't laid out a motive. That's all I've said. The other thing is that, no, I'm not suggesting that he was tied to stop the steal, but I'm not sure why you think that would be.
Had he been discovered right after January 6th, would he have been included in the pardonings from individuals who participated?
So it's called a hypothetical. Had he been prosecuted alongside all of those other people who were involved in violent acts on January 6th?
The majority of them were not involved in violent acts on January 6th. They were just involved in being there.
Would Donald Trump have pardoned him?
No, because individuals who walked into the Capitol building on January 6th were not planting pipe bombs.
What about
the DNC?
But what about the ones that use the American flag?
But again, it's rich to me that now the media is saying we have no idea what the motive is for this person.
Hold on.
This now.
She's literally comparing using I can't listen to her anymore, guys. Sorry, I got to move on from this because she makes my blood boil. She is the dumbest person to exist on the planet, I think, right now. The things she says are just so stupid that I can't entertain my brain with it. Then we've got this mental half-wit right here. Cole planted the pipe bomb on January 5th. Trump's fight like hell comments were on January 6th. How can someone be radicalized by comments that haven't happened yet? And here's Ed Krasenstein. So Brian Cole Jr. was a Trump supporter. Did Trump's fight like hell comments radicalize him? Yeah, she's cutting people off because they make good points that make her look dumber than... Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And here's Krasenstein. Did his comments... He planted the bombs on the 5th. These people have been so brainwashed, so dumbed down, that they don't even take facts of the case into account. They think that he planted the bombs on January 6th. He planted them the day before. And there was a timer that they were supposed to go off the day before, but they never went off. This is information that's been out there since 2020, by the way. That part. So, yeah, anyway, it's just absolutely ridiculous. None of that's going to happen, by the way. He's not getting a pardon. He left it, like I said, the shit was left on the 5th. Had nothing to do with J6. And trying to blow things up is a lot different than trespassing. Hell, it's even way different than assaulting a cop, if we're all being honest with each other. But the fact that they're even pushing the idea tells you that this guy was one of their own. And, I mean, this is just my opinion, but, I mean, seems a little odd that this narrative just out of the blue popped up. Well, Donald Trump pardoned J6 guys. Why can't they pardon this guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, they were butthurt that people were pardoned for J6. Now, all of a sudden, this particular guy should be pardoned for J5, which isn't even a thing. It's one of their own guys. So, I mean, I'm just telling you, it's one of their own. I mean, I don't care how much they want to spin or cut people off on the news. That is what it is. So, I mean, look at here. Look, this is Mark Warner. Of like this here will make your brain cave in on itself. I'm not kidding. This is how stupid Democrat politicians are. Listen to what this idiot says here.
You know, I think it is good news if this perpetrator got arrested. But I got to tell you, it kind of makes me, looking at this crowd doing a victory lap when all the senior FBI officials across all key divisions have been fired for political purposes, when in some field offices up to 45% of the FBI officers who were doing things like counter-espionage and cyber have been assigned to do immigration cases. It's a little rich that they're saying America's safer. How much earlier could we have caught this guy if resources hadn't been diverted? You know, I think it.
How much earlier could we have caught this guy had they not restructured the FBI to not be the Democrats' tool of law? I can answer this for the guy. We could have caught them in 2020 if the Biden FBI didn't bury the whole case, didn't bury the evidence to protect one of their own. We could have caught them in 2020, but it was Trump's. It's Patel's fault. It's Trump's fault. They got rid of the bad actors that they know of so far in the FBI, and assigned people to immigration cases because we keep seeing this freaking situation where illegal immigrant and alien criminals come over here and rape women and kill people on trains and elsewhere. And so they're like, let's put some people on getting these people out of here, right? These people are retarded, I swear. I swear they're so retarded. Your brain like melts, like trying to even attempt to reason with whatever that was just said. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the dumbest people. Meanwhile, listen to what Cash had to say about all of this. Pretty interesting.
Will there ever be a look back on the way, perhaps your predecessors or other people in the FBI handled this to question those methods and motives? Again, the fact that it disappeared, from the news basically the second, January 6th happened and was never brought back up again, even in the months following. It seems odd. And I mean, it seems like something that people would want answers to. Will there be a review process on how this was conducted differently, how you guys could do this, 4 years later and then, 8 or 9 months, actually come up with a suspect versus the prior administration having 4 years, a more immediate timeline, being able to go right into it, having the immediacy of that, or, even the fact that they just didn't care, doesn't that say so much about the weaponization of justice in America today?
Absolutely. And I think you're going to see it on parallel tracks. What you're going to see is as this case presents itself in court, you're going to see where we were able to collect the evidence and make the case against this suspect. And then common sense journalism and investigators are going to be able to look at it and say, why did these people do X, Y, and Z 4 or 5 years ago? That's going to make itself self-apparent. But what we're doing at this FBI is also we have replaced this entire leadership cadre. We have pushed out 1,000 agents into the field. There's a reason this FBI has 25,000 violent offenders arrested this year alone. That's twice as many as last year. There's a reason that this FBI is going to deliver President Trump the lowest murder rate in modern history by double digits. There is a reason this FBI is out there crushing fentanyl, destroying narco traffickers, and making sure the homeland is safe and preventing spies from infiltrating our homeland and our way of life. That's what happens when you change leadership from the prior administration FBI who wanted to weaponize and politicize law enforcement to us, President Trump and the Attorney General, who want to just deliver law enforcement on every single front. And that's what we're doing. So you're going to see it in both lanes.
And there you have it. You're going to see where we were able to collect the evidence and make this case. Journalists will be able to look at it and say, why didn't these people do this 4 to 5 years ago? They won't. The journalists won't look at this because journalists do not work in the interest of truth anymore. And I mean, as bad as the left may be, the right-wing influencers aren't any better. You have shills like there's that Viva La Frey or Faye or whatever guy. I caught a video from him. He goes on Alex Jones all the time. He's making videos questioning if this arrest is a distraction. Like, just be careful of people like that, guys. Like, I can't even with these people. Like, we're winning time after time. And the corruption's being shown in real time since probably week 2 of Trump taking office on some levels. And then think about this. Just a few days prior, Trump removed all auto pen pardons that came from Biden, the ones that he just handed out before he left office by auto pen, except for Hunter's, of course, that was by hand. And those pardons included J6 committee members. These members are now back on the chopping block. These are the same people that deleted evidence on J6 so that they could push false narratives to make Trump look bad because they knew he was going to be the winner. And just a few days later, this arrest happens. Just after that, I think this is all timing, guys. I think this is all very, very convenient timing. And the one remaining unanswered question regarding J6 has always been, even by official narratives, this bomber guy, right? They rounded up people en masse that were just there, but they couldn't find this guy. And then these same shills on X and YouTube and elsewhere want you to believe nothing is happening. Then when things do happen, they dismiss it as a distraction and continue to keep pushing their BS narratives surrounding Trump. And it's all just a prime, like what they do is a prime example of PSYOPs, guys. Like it literally is. They don't want you to see the good. They want you to only think everything's bad or shady in this administration, and we're seeing the opposite. Here's another example of one right here. I'm just going to show this to you. I'm not going to read this whole freaking bullshit, but this is from Lara Logan. President Trump, after months of waiting, watching, investigating, and firsthand reporting, it appears increasingly obvious you are being set up to fail, and there will be no coming back from this if you don't stop it now. The establishment seems to have its hooks in your admin, and they are sabotaging your efforts, blocking implementation of your orders, sidelining your political appointees, leaving countless... Okay, political appointees still have to get approval, if I'm not mistaken, by Congress, and sidelining them. Who's been sidelined? Nobody. We're functioning pretty damn good, leaving countless critical positions unstaffed, and they have allowed your enemies to either stay in place or come back through the door to occupy key terrain. Almost a year into your presidency, you don't have your own administrator at agencies like the TSA and FEMA and other critical areas like Intel, Department of War. You still have career bureaucrats whose loyalties are most definitely not to you or your admin, occupying many deputy positions instead of your appointees. These are just a few examples. There are senior Trump appointees from various agencies who have been placed in political purgatory. Oh, I didn't even put this up on the damn screen, guys. Sorry. Political purgatory, she says, where they have shut out and unable to do their jobs, from the Navy to commerce to state and so on. They are keeping them on the payroll but blocking them from working or being effective. How can your policies be implemented if the people loyal to you do not have the staff or access to implement them? The worst part is that people are hiding the intention to impeach you after the midterms, and they are setting it up so that your own base will be enraged by your failure to act, while they are the ones making sure your efforts are undermined at every turn. They could not stop you from winning office, but they are advancing a well-formulated plan to ensure you do not finish your term. What happens after that should be obvious to all. So she's implying that all these things are happening and provides no proof other than what? This is what I feel. Like, I mean, do I think that they're looking for reasons to impeach him? Of course. Of course. We've seen it. They've said it. Congress has already said it, these Democrats. And this is why, you know, these people like her. This is the dumbest reply to a reply I think I've ever seen. Trump is to blame, period. No more excuses of I was ill-advised or I was lied to. We did that for his entire first term. He knows exactly what he's doing this time. That's the scariest part of all. And then Lara Logan goes, that's exactly what they knew you'd say. Right on cue. They're counting on that. Who's they? Who's the they that you speak of? You're the one that just put all this out into the ether. Like I said, she shows no evidence of what she's saying. She just said, this is what's happening, for sure. I know it. Cites no legitimate proven examples. I mean, just vague possible obstructions she perceives as existing, not knowing whether or not some of these things are being delayed by the admin or Trump himself for a reason. She speculates intentionally and openly on X that she definitely knows a lot better than what Trump's doing. Clearly, Trump is so stupid that he needs this broad to guide him through such things, correct? And then when she gets replies like I just showed you, she comes up and says, oh, that's what they want you to think. Bitch, the they is you. You literally just put this out in the ether. There is no they. This is how you people operate. This was to plant distrust, just like you saw here by this follower of hers, to say and think exactly that way. And then when she says it, she's like, oh, that's what they, because she doesn't want you to think she's a psyop, so she's got to say things like that. Like, guys, the psyops are going to get worse, by the way. The psyops are going to get worse. So, I mean, it's like, I'm just done. So, moving on, we're almost done, guys. I told you this was going to be a long show. Months ago, I told you about this Minnesota thing. It's finally blowing up. It's finally becoming mainstream. I told you how I knew about it. But the Somali fraud thing, it's now front and center. Back then, the details weren't like super clear. I think on the local level, they knew more than what they were telling people at the time. But they did seem to lead back to Walls and in Omar, Ilhan Omar. But not just her, this Omar Fatah who was running for mayor as well. I was one of the very few who even mentioned it. And I heard it, like I said, about months ago from a channel called Paralegal Institute. And now it's blown up. So I would like to point out that Trump is going hard at Ilhan Omar. He has been. It isn't, like, in my opinion, because, you know, she's swaddled in a hijab or mentally retarded or anything like that. It's because they clearly know some things about her and want to keep her in the spotlight. So Trump's no dummy, unlike Lara Logan seems to think and some other people. The reason he keeps bringing up Ilhan Omar marrying her brother, I think, is in hopes it will push her to snap and sue him. That's what I think. And if I'm right, and she does do that, there's going to be like discovery at trial, right? And something nobody is talking about. So, like, if she does do that, you notice when Trump says, attacks her for marrying her brother, she calls him this a phobe and that a phobe, but she doesn't deny the claims that she married her brother. And as I'm saying this right now, I haven't seen any video of her denying what Trump is claiming she's done. So I think it's important to remember some actual news that people probably forgot by now, because this came out. Oh gosh, when did this come out? This would have been 9 months ago. This came out 9 months ago. Take a look at this. Bombshell. Ilhan Omar did marry her brother, says personal friend who has finally gone on record. You remember this? This guy. We should have known it was coming, not because of the facts, mind you, but because it feels like years really, since we've had a good rep Ilhan Omar scandal. The last one I specifically remember didn't involve the Minnesota didn't involve her saying something anti-Semitic, whatever, which basically involves every time she opens her mouth on foreign affairs, involved the amount of money her campaign was funneling to the man who became her husband. And it feels about at least 40 Scaramucci's ago. It's time for something fresh. And lo and behold, we've got something fresh, albeit an old scandal, but one what Democrats insisted was disinformation and lies. According to a report by the UK Daily Mail, sources confirm Omar told friends that her second husband was actually her brother and that her marriage was a scam to get him immigration papers. Furthermore, one of these friends told the outlet that the relationship was a major scandal in Minneapolis Somali community when it happened, long before Omar became a major political figure. So this is from 9 months ago, and everybody forgot about this guy coming forward and saying that. I can guarantee you most people forgot that that was even a thing that happened. But at the end of the day, it did happen, and we need to remember that it happened. That's why I brought it up. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, because these same Democrats used Trump's super old association with Epstein to claim he was involved, despite the victim saying he wasn't, despite the lawyers saying he wasn't, despite the actual evidence that he was. But this is an actual recent friend of Omar, and he flat out said she used to openly say she married her brother to assist him in illegally entering the country. This associate, we're not supposed to take seriously, though. And that's how Democrats operate. But anyway, now, as far as the fraud goes, let's take a look at how things are playing out. We saw this video come out a few days back right here. Let me get it brought up for you. Told you I had a lot to cover, guys. I want to keep you up to date, and I know you guys know some of this stuff, maybe all of this stuff, but we got to keep it in the forefront. So this is the actual raid on
one of two. It's a familiar sight in Minnesota. This exclusive video shows FBI agents walking out with boxes of evidence.
And that is absolutely something that our community cannot sustain.
One of two facilities raided on Thursday: Star Autism Center's office in St. Cloud and Smart Therapy Center in Minneapolis. Familiar because this is what it looked like when agents raided homes connected to the largest pandemic fraud case in the country. And new court documents show at least a dozen of the defendants charged for their role in the Feeding Our Future scheme owned, received money from, or were associated with autism clinics. In this case, the alleged scheme boils down to charging Medicaid millions for care they didn't actually provide. Since 2017, Medicaid reimbursement claims in Minnesota skyrocketed from just under $2 million to more than $250 million.
Insurance is driving what providers are providing as opposed to what patients need.
A major fear of Ellie Wilson, the executive director of Autism Society of Minnesota. According to the search warrant, many of the kids receiving autism services at Smart Therapy did not appear to be autistic. The warrant alleges Smart Therapy hired young relatives who had no formal education and who were usually just on their phones all day.
So people, dumb people that they could use as pawns is what they hired. And there was an account that was created that allegedly by employees in the Minnesota, like the staffers there who implicated Walz in the cover-up. And they had their account removed for a second there on X, but then it was restored, thank goodness. And this is the announcement that it was restored by American AF. And this is the post that basically, as many are aware, we are permanently suspended several hours ago. However, we are back up due in no small part to the support of many of you. We are very grateful and moved by your support. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Now, you see commentator account here. This is not the original account. This was I don't think this is the original account. This is the one, they opened up another one to announce that they had been taken down. So that whole thing is back. I never even got 5 seconds to look at the original account yet. So I can't show you exactly what they said, but I did see people talking about this, and they basically said Walz was knee deep. Like he was like, just ignore this fraud, basically, to these staffers that would bring it to him. So this is the Paralegal Institute. We're not watching this whole video at all. We're going to watch the end of it. But I think it's important that people understand Minnesota is just the precipice of this whole Somali bullshit. Just like I think Ohio is
and we're back.
Is not the only state that probably took a bunch of Haitians. It's just the one that wound up being talked about. So let me get to the part that we need to be at here. And I'll bring that up for us. I just want you to hear this. This is crazy. This has to do with Maine and Janet Mills.
And now a new poll shows the Progressive Democrat has a big lead in an early poll, including.
This comes after his controversy surrounding past comment week.
The Somali Americans are all in the news right now. I am not throwing them under the bus, people, personally, okay? I have had some contact with Somali people growing up. It's always been pleasant. But, you know, we got to bring you the stories. We have to let you know what's happening out there. And this is definitely one of those stories that goes along with the national conversation and the national debate right now.
Let's introduce you to Somali American Abdullah Ali, who came to the U.S. from Somalia in 2009. You're looking at, obviously, the man on my right who had discovered this story. He became a U.S. citizen, started a nonprofit to help immigrants, started several businesses, including a multi-million-dollar migrant care service agency. And in 2024, he ran for president as he raised money to bankroll a militia in Somalia. Yes, you heard that right. A U.S. citizen who, according to the Main Wire, gave an interview with Kenyan media in which he said he raised money in the U.S. to buy weapons, munitions, and supplies for paramilitary force he had hoped to lead as the president of Jubaland. Yes, that is a real state in Somalia. He was running for president in Somalia. Of course, he lost the election. We reached out to the Gateway Community Services in Maine, which Ali founded, did not hear back, ironically enough. The man who broke this report, editor-in-chief of the Maine Wire, Steve Robinson, dude, this is crazy.
You really can't make this stuff up. I mean, the guy's running a migrant services agency that bills MaineCare, which is what we call Medicaid, about $5 million a year. At the same time that he's running for president, and to be clear,
in Somalia,
that he's running to be the warlord of Jubaland. elections in Jubaland aren't exactly like elections in America. It's, whoever has the most guns is able to certify the election. So he needed to buy a paramilitary organization and paramilitary support in order to win that election, and he lost it. But at the very same time that he was in Jubaland and Kenya trying to become a warlord in southern Somalia, he was getting no-bid contracts from the administration of Governor Janet Mills, a Democrat who has been in cahoots with Gateway Community Services from the very beginning. So if there's one thing that I would implore your listeners to understand, it's in Minnesota and in Maine, it's not just the Somali diaspora that has come over here and decided to engage in this criminal behavior. It's an industrial complex with the Democratic Party that enables and turns a blind eye to this behavior because they benefit from it through political support.
So yeah, y'all. Maine, for it to be kind of a smaller state population-wise, a rural state, Maine has a lot going on.
So there you have it. Maine's affected by this Somali nonsense as well. It's not just going on in Minnesota. Unfortunately, it's spread to other places. So one has to assume that Democrats are using these people for various reasons. Then we had this come out about Ilhan Omar. This is coming from Paul White, Gold Eagle. Take a listen to this really quick. Not very long, but listen.
Well, now investigators are tracking the web of fraud to other Minnesota Democrats, such as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Many of the suspects linked to the scheme live in her district, including a restaurant owner who hosted events for her. He has since been convicted of stealing $12 million in COVID funds. Well, now investigators are tracking the web.
So it's closing in on her, guys. We're going to see stuff happening by next year. I promise you this. It takes time to do these investigations. I mean, at the local level, they were doing this investigation for quite some time before anything even started coming out. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to skip over the next section of, because I've had your guys' ear for going on if not over 3 hours at this point. I just wanted to kind of leave you with the end part here. We can talk about the double tap of the boats nonsense and stuff on the next show. Maybe I'll do a special show midweek or something and finish up everything I wanted to talk about to you tonight. I knew this was going to be long, but this is really long, and I appreciate you guys hanging in there who did. I feel like it's important to always remind you guys that the final message for me is just basically going to be keep your head on, keep your wits about you. Always keep a level head when it comes to narratives you see online, okay? Many of these big names and accounts, many of these moderately large accounts even get paid behind the scenes to push narratives and false stories to keep you feeling hopeless when you really shouldn't. I know you guys probably get sick and tired of hearing me say stuff like this, but it's actually true. I mean, conservative ink is a thing. All these things I tell you about are real. You can look it up. I mean, I feel like it's important to point this stuff out and remind you about all these things as much as possible, because there's going to be a concerted effort in the next coming months to distract you from all the good, especially around tax time. And the closer we get to midterms, this is going to amp up. They're not going to want people to be focused on the fact that, oh man, no tax on tips really paid off for me this year. So did no tax on overtime. But look how quickly the shady actors like Candace Owens were able to whittle down the unity that we saw starting after Charlie Kirk's murder. I mean, there was a TikToker on the left who said he won't be remembered, that video went viral, or be a martyr. And unfortunately, that's sort of become true on some level. It could have been a lot bigger than it is. But thanks to people like her who want to make money off his name, who want engagement farm off his name for fame and conspiracy theories and clicks, that's what we're seeing. So, I mean, she accused everyone from Israel, Erica Kirk, Trump, and his security team, and now TPS USA directly for his murder. And there's still people that are sucking all this up like any of it's actually accurate. So I'll leave you with this. This is just a funny little thing that I came across today or yesterday. It's JD Vance talking about a super important meeting that he had with Trump. He's speaking at the what was this? It's something to do with Sly Stallone. They did something with him. Anyway, this is JD Vance telling a story about a super important meeting with Trump, and I just thought it was funny, and it's very, very Trumpy. So take a listen to this. It's 1:47, and I'll let you guys go.
I want to talk about Sly and all his great accomplishments and why we're gathered here to celebrate him. But I want to first say, people often ask me what it's like to be the Vice President of the United States. And a lot of it is exactly what you would expect it to look like if you watched on TV or just paid attention to the media. But sometimes you get these behind-the-scenes moments that I will never, ever forget for the rest of my life. So, for example, today I'm in the Oval Office with the President of the United States and our great Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and we're talking about something really, really important. And the President kind of holds up his hand and says, no, hold on a second. There's something much more important. Shoes. And he peers over the Resolute desk and he says, Marco, JD, you guys have shitty shoes. We gotta get you better shoes. So he goes out and grabs the catalog. There happens to be another politician in the room. I won't say who, and you'll find out why in a second. And he actually runs us through this incredible shoe catalog. And by the way, the President is gifting us with 4 pairs of shoes. And I need 4 pairs for Marco. And he's actually asking our size in the middle of this conversation. He's asking for our size so that he can make sure that we get the right shoes. And he asked this other politician, he said, I'm going to get you some shoes too. And so he says, Marco, what's your shoe size? And Marco's apparently an 11.5. He says, JD, what's your shoe size? My shoe size is 13. And he asked this politician, who I won't embarrass, what his shoe size is, and he says 7. President, he kind of leans back in his chair and says, you can tell a lot about a man by his shoe size. We won't ask the second lady for comment on that particular.
See, and I 100% believe that happened. That's why I love this president, man, among so many other things. I just wanted to leave you with that. I thought it'd be kind of lighthearted. I will finish up this script maybe midweek or something, Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere in there, maybe Friday. Also, I'm going to put out another video on the other spooky channel. I moved this to this channel to disassociate those two because my views went from 50s, which was okay, down to like the teens. And I'm wondering if it's because I was doing the private broadcasts on there. So I moved it to this channel. This will be up. I'll probably edit the beginning where I was testing things and all that off of here. But this will be up if you need to revisit anything. And I'll delete everything else off of this and that I wanted to show you that I've already shown you. I'll keep what I didn't show you, and I'll make another show out of that for you guys. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me for this super long show. I warned you it'd be